Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 2154. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Because he also noticed Gao Xiaohui's abnormality. Gao Xiaohui wanted to say something but hesitated. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "All right, they are still watching, don't cry." They. Gao Xiaohui was stunned, leaving Qin Feiyang's arms, turned her head, and found that Mu Tianyang and the other two were also there. Especially when she saw Madman, a trace of reverence immediately crept up her face. "Am I so scary?" Madman grumbled in dissatisfaction. "If you are not scary, who is? Even if it is a heavenless disciple, seeing you is like seeing a devil, let alone an outer disciple like her." Mu Tianyang laughed secretly. Hee hee. Madman put on a fake smile. "Brother Jiang, there are still important things to do, hurry up." Hua Yi reminded. Qin Feiyang nodded, lowered his head and looked at Gao Xiaohui, saying, "Hurry up and go back, don't do anything stupid." "Where are you going? Can I go with you?" Gao Xiaohui asked. "No. Because it is very dangerous." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Gao Xiaohui couldn't help but feel a trace of disappointment. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I will give you some more soul stones, go back and cultivate hard, and when you become stronger in the future, no one will dare to bully you." "No need. There are still many soul stones left that you gave us last time." Gao Xiaohui shook her head. "All right then." Qin Feiyang nodded, opened a teleportation altar that led directly to the heaven stairway, and said with a smile, "Then hurry up and go back, try not to come to the Sky Dragon Sea in the future, it is too dangerous." "Then you have to be careful." Gao Xiaohui warned, and then nodded to Mu Tianyang and the other two, and then took a deep look at Qin Feiyang, and turned to walk up the altar. Very soon, Gao Xiaohui was teleported away. Mu Tianyang joked, "Brother Jiang, your luck with women is enviable." "Luck in love affairs?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Mu Tianyang was stunned, "You didn't see that Gao Xiaohui was interested in you?" "Interested in me? Impossible." Qin Feiyang frowned. Hua Yi smiled and said, "Brother Mu is not talking nonsense. Gao Xiaohui does have feelings for you. I can see it too." Madman nodded. Ugh. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them in astonishment. Could it be that this was really the case? No. Towards Gao Xiaohui, he was more sympathetic and had nothing to do with feelings. If what the three of them said was true, then this matter had to be explained to Gao Xiaohui as soon as possible. Otherwise, she would definitely sink deeper and deeper. The deeper he fell, the more painful it would be. Anyway, he couldn't allow this matter to continue developing. "Let's go to Longquan Mountain." Madman also activated the altar. The four of them walked up one after another. Longquan Mountain. Although not many people knew about the Nine Heavens Palace and Sky Dragon City, they were still quite famous in the area. This was because there were many powerful beasts in Longquan Mountain. Their cultivation was basically between the War Saint and the War King. And the nearby villages, the average strength was only at the War Master level. Therefore, in the eyes of the locals, Longquan Mountain was also a forbidden area. Longquan Mountain, Peak. There was a quiet and elegant small courtyard. Around the courtyard, there was a 1-meter-high wooden fence. In the middle, there was a 2-story wooden building. Flowers bloomed all around. The air was clear and the environment was beautiful. It was indeed a good place to cultivate in seclusion. At this moment, on the second floor's balcony, a middle-aged man stood facing the wind, his face filled with anger and killing intent. It was Feng Wenhai. Feng Zihan had already told him about the fat woman's death through sound transmission. To him, this was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. His hatred for Qin Feiyang had also reached an unprecedented level. Feng Yuan had very few people to begin with. And now, Feng Zijuan, Yin Hui and the others were all dead. In the entire Feng family, only he, Feng Yuan, and Feng Zihan were left. This was to let their Feng family have no descendants. Jiang Haotian, Gongzi Feng, Hua Yi, Mu Tianyang, and Madman, just you wait. Sooner or later, there will be a day when I will find all of you to settle the old and new grudges. Feng Wenhai was getting angrier and angrier, to the point of going crazy. Hee hee. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Suddenly, a cold laugh sounded out. Feng Wenhai was shocked. He raised his head and saw 4 young men standing silently in the void above him. It was Qin Feiyang's group of 4. Feng Wenhai's expression immediately changed as he asked in surprise, "When did you guys come?" "Not long ago. Seeing that you were so engrossed in your thoughts, we didn't want to disturb you." Hua Yi teased. Feng Wenhai's heart sank, and said, "Didn't you guys go to the Sky Dragon Sea? How did you find this place? And how did you know I was here?" "In the past, when Feng Zihan was in seclusion here, I came here. As for how I knew you were here, this is all thanks to your good son," Madman said. "Gongzi Feng," Feng Wenhai said in a deep voice. Madman sneered, "Other than him, do you have any other sons now? This damn little bastard." Feng Wenhai was furious. He swept his eyes around Qin Feiyang and the others, and asked, "Just the 4 of you?" "Yes. Just the 4 of us." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What are you guys doing here?" Feng Wenhai said. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't you know what we're here for?" "Ha!" Feng Wenhai laughed, laughing extremely brightly. "What are you laughing at?" Mu Tianyang asked curiously. "I'm laughing at your stupidity. With just the strength of the 4 of you, you dare to come here to kill me? Perfect. Since you guys took the initiative to come to me, then let's settle this. Today, none of you will be able to leave Dragon Spring Mountain alive." Feng Wenhai laughed, his divine might erupting. "What cultivation level?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. "Great success." Madman's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. A great success paragon god was actually so disdainful. The 3 of them looked at each other and tactfully retreated to the side, leaving the battlefield to Madman. Boom! Feng Wenhai soared into the sky and punched at Madman. His speed was so fast that even Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't catch it. Madman didn't seem to be able to react in time and was hit by Feng Wenhai's punch. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteorite. If you hadn't been idle all these years, your cultivation might have surpassed mine by now. Unfortunately, you've wasted 7,000 to 8,000 years. Little bastard, today is the day you die. Feng Wenhai's face was full of contempt as he unleashed his extreme speed and punched Madman's chest again. With a cracking sound, his bones broke and his internal organs were damaged. What's going on? Why isn't he fighting back? Mu Tianyang frowned. I'm not sure. Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi shook their heads. They looked at Madman again. Although he was heavily injured by Feng Wenhai, his expression didn't change at all. No. There was a change. It became more and more sinister. It was as if a sleeping beast was gradually awakening. What's wrong? Aren't you usually very arrogant in Nine Heaven Palace? Why aren't you moving now? Is this all you've got? Feng Wenhai laughed and stepped forward to slap Madman's chest again. Puff! Madman spat out blood and smashed into the ground below. A giant mountain was directly flattened. What is he doing? Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang said, anyway, we can't help. Let's just watch quietly. A battle between paragon gods wasn't something they could interfere in. Whoosh! Feng Wenhai became more and more arrogant. He flashed down and grabbed Madman's neck, twisting it. Fight back. Why are you silent? Is it because you see that I'm too strong and don't have the courage to fight back? Huh, before in Nine Heaven Palace, I tolerated you because of Grand Elder's face. Do you really think you're invincible? In my eyes, you're just a piece of trash. Feng Wenhai was disdainful to the extreme as he punched Madman's face again and again. Not long later. Madman's face was unrecognizable and blood flowed out. His entire person looked extremely miserable. But his expression became colder and colder, like two sharp blades, making Feng Wenhai's heart couldn't help but begin to panic. Since you're not going to fight back, then die for me. Feng Wenhai's eyes surged with killing intent. On his fist, divine power emerged, exuding a destructive aura as it blasted toward Madman's head. This blow was enough to kill. But at this moment, Madman suddenly raised his arm and grabbed Feng Wenhai's fist. An invisible force was like a torrent, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Gotcha! Feng Wenhai's fist actually emitted the crisp sound of bones cracking. Such a terrifying power. Feng Wenhai's expression immediately changed as he hurriedly shook Madman away, his expression full of disbelief. The physical strength displayed by Madman was actually a bit stronger than his. Madman ignored the injuries on his body and his face that was constantly bleeding. His cold gaze was like a death god staring at Feng Wenhai. Do you know that Feng Yuan killed my adoptive father? Adoptive father? Feng Wenhai was taken aback. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, their faces full of suspicion. Madman said word by word, it's the son of First Elder. What? First Elder's son is your adoptive father? Feng Wenhai was shocked. Qin Feiyang and the other two also looked at each other. Adoptive father? Didn't that mean that Madman was the adoptive son of First Elder's son? No wonder Madman would be so angry when he heard the real cause of death of First Elder's son, so it was because of this relationship. But looking at Feng Wenhai's reaction, other than First Elder, no one should know the relationship between these two. You are his adoptive son. How is this possible? Feng Wenhai was extremely shocked. Adoptive father and adoptive son. It was simply too unbelievable. Madman did not explain and said gloomily, answer my question. Ridiculous. Your adoptive father was kind to my father, how could my father harm him? Don't slander me. Feng Wenhai shouted angrily. But his expression was a little guilty. It seems that you won't tell the truth. Since that's the case, then there's no point in keeping you. Want to see my strength? Fine. I'll fulfill your wish now. Madman smiled sinisterly as a monstrous aura suddenly erupted. Chapter 2155. I know that over the years, the Great Elder has given you a lot of trump cards, but I also have a lot. Moreover, the gap between our cultivations is a chasm that you will never be able to cross. Today, you must die. Not only will you die, but they will also die. Feng Wenhai pointed at Qin Feiyang and the other two and laughed loudly. Madman licked the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, soon, you will take back those words. Huh, Feng Wenhai laughed wildly. Blood demon domain, open. Madman said word by word, and as the last word blurted out, a monstrous bloodlight emerged. That bloodlight was like the sign of the birth of a demon, emitting a terrifying murderous aura. Following closely. The bloodlight was like a tide, drowning in all directions, forming a blood barrier that covered tens of thousands of miles. Qin Feiyang and the others were also inside the barrier. Immediately, they felt a strange force drilling into their bodies. The next moment, a terrifying scene appeared. Their cultivations began to plummet. Perfect War God. Great success war god. Small success war god. Initial war god. It didn't stop until they fell to the pseudo-god realm. In other words, the blood-colored barrier had caused their cultivation to drop by 5 minor levels. What kind of divine art was this? It was too terrifying. Looking at Feng Wenhai again. He also turned pale with fright. Because his cultivation was also plummeting. Small success Paragon God. Initial Paragon God. Half-step Paragon God. Perfect Divine Lord. Perfect Divine Lord. He also fell by 5 realms in a row. What the hell is going on? Feng Wenhai's face was full of shock. Although he didn't have much contact with Madman, he knew a lot about Madman's methods. In his impression, Madman didn't have such methods at all. Madman sneered, "Do you think that Laozi has been idle all these years?" Feng Wenhai was surprised. More than 7,000 years ago, Laozi created the first move of the Blood Demon Seal. More than 6,000 years ago, Laozi created the second move, Blood Demon Roar. More than 5,000 years ago, Laozi created the third move, Bloodthirsty Demon King. More than 4,000 years ago, I created the fourth style, which is what you see now, the Blood Demon Domain. And 1,000 years ago, I created the fifth move. However, you will never have the chance to see the fifth move. And in the past few thousand years, I've raised all 5 styles of the Blood Demon to the legendary level. Madman said proudly. What? There's a fifth move? Feng Wenhai trembled both physically and mentally. If the fourth style was already so terrifying, then how shocking would the fifth style be? I have to say, creating a divine incantation is truly a difficult task. However, I did it. And you? Let alone creating a legendary grade deity art, I'm afraid you can't even raise the level of a deity art. Now tell me, what qualifications do you have to be so arrogant in front of me? Madman roared. With a single step, he arrived in front of Feng Wenhai and punched Feng Wenhai's chest. Ah! Feng Wenhai let out a blood-curdling scream as blood spurted from his mouth. With his cultivation dropping by 5 realms, there was no way he could continue fighting. He turned around and fled. As long as he left the realm of the Blood Devil, his cultivation base would be restored. However, not only did the realm of the Blood Devil cause his cultivation base to plummet, but it also suppressed his speed to that of a perfect Divine Lord. How could the speed of a perfect Divine Lord compare to Madman, who was a half-step Divine Lord? Madman wasn't in a hurry. He slowly followed behind Feng Wenhai step by step. And the realm of the Blood Devil was actually moving along with Madman. In other words, no matter how Feng Wenhai escaped, as long as Madman followed him, Feng Wenhai would always be trapped in the realm of the Blood Devil. At this moment, Feng Wenhai was burning with anxiety. With his cultivation suppressed and his speed suppressed, how could he escape the realm of the Blood Devil? The most important thing was, Madman was following behind him, ready to end his life at any time. Don't chase, I beg you. I'll tell you everything. Your adoptive father was killed by my father. Feng Wenhai roared. He was panicking to the extreme. Madman's eyes were filled with killing intent as he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang understood and took out an image crystal. Madman shouted, "Say it again. Be more specific and detailed." It was my father who was greedy for the position of Hall Master of the Resource Hall. He killed your adoptive father in the Sky Dragon Sea and framed the Deputy Hall Master of the Treasure Pavilion. The people who came with him were also killed by my father. It's all true, my father told me personally, Feng Wenhai roared. He didn't notice at all that this scene had been recorded by Qin Feiyang. Finally, I got the evidence. Qin Feiyang laughed and put away the image crystal. Now, Feng Yuan's time of death has come. But what I'm looking forward to the most is what kind of expression he will have when he sees that his own son betrayed him. Huiyi's face was full of ridicule. However, Mu Tianyang frowned and remained silent. Feng Wenhai shouted, "I've already said it, just let me go." "Let you go?" Madman smiled sinisterly and grabbed Feng Wenhai's head. "Haven't you heard of the saying the son pays for the father's debt?" "Don't," Feng Wenhai roared at the top of his lungs. But it was useless. Madman's 5 fingers suddenly exerted force and Feng Wenhai's head exploded on the spot like a watermelon. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. His divine soul was also instantly destroyed. "Terrifying, truly terrifying," Hua Yi muttered. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also filled with deep fear. Last time in the land of the far west, he felt that Madman didn't use his full strength. In the end, it was true. And it was countless times more terrifying than he imagined. The blood demon domain had dropped 5 realms. If it was any other opponent, it would be a disaster. Of course. To Qin Feiyang, Madman's blood demon domain couldn't pose a threat to him. Because he had the eye of heaven that could copy all attacks. However, to others, the Madman was an opponent that made them despair. "Adoptive father, I have already found the person who harmed you back then. I will make him pay a heavy price soon. You should feel very gratified in the underworld." Madman muttered, and the blood demon domain disappeared. Then, holding Feng Wenhai's headless corpse, he turned to look at Qin Feiyang and the other 2, and said, "Return to the 9 Heavens Palace." His tone was filled with a shocking murderous aura. Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi looked at each other. Since they had the evidence, they could indeed fight back. But it was also a little unexpected. Originally, they just wanted to collect some interest, but they didn't expect Feng Wenhai to be so cowardly and actually confess everything. It seemed that they could only wait until this matter was settled before going to the Sky Dragon Sea. Hua Yi suddenly looked at Mu Tianyang and said suspiciously, "Brother Mu Tianyang, what are you thinking about?" Not saying a word. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and also looked at Mu Tianyang. Seeing Mu Tianyang lowering his head, he seemed to be hesitating. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang thought. Mu Tianyang glanced at Madman and transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi, "Have you thought of a problem? If we get rid of Feng Yuan now, how will we find out the whereabouts of the vein of soul?" Qin Feiyang thought, even if Feng Yuan is dead, isn't there still the next Hall Master of the Resource Hall? But none of us know who the next Hall Master of the Resource Hall will be. Is this person easy to deal with? Will he trust us? In short, it wasn't easy for me to gain Feng Yuan's trust. If I kill him now, I will feel a little uncomfortable. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. "I can understand your feelings. After all, for the vein of soul, you worked so hard for so long and suffered so many grievances. But I don't think Feng Yuan will tell you the location of the vein of soul. You know very well in your heart that once we are killed, Feng Yuan will immediately get rid of you. Moreover, look at Madman now, will he listen to us? Definitely not." Qin Feiyang thought. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and nodded, "All right, let's kill him first. As for the vein of soul, we can't rush it anyway. Moreover, we don't lack soul stones for the time being. We can think about it later. Then let's go." Qin Feiyang smiled. The 3 of them flew toward Madman. Madman looked at the 3 of them suspiciously and said, "What are you guys whispering about?" "Nothing." The 3 of them shook their heads and smiled. "It's definitely nothing good." Madman rolled his eyes at the 3 of them, but he wasn't in the mood to get to the bottom of it. He opened a teleportation altar. Whoosh! The 4 of them jumped up one after another. Chapter 2156. 9th Heaven Palace. The ancient sky stairway reached the clouds, and the 9th Heaven Palace was suspended in the clouds. Under the sunlight, it was like a fairyland. Usually in the morning and afternoon, there would be a large number of disciples coming out of the ninth heaven palace. They were all there to gain experience. In groups of 2s and 3s, everyone looked energetic and full of expectations. They were looking forward to a good harvest. Swish! Suddenly, 4 figures descended on the mountain peak below the sky stairway. What a strong evil aura and smell of blood. It's Madman. And Jiang Haotian, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang. Where did they come from? Look, Madman is actually carrying a headless corpse in his hand. Who is that? Seeing Qin Feiyang and the other 3 appear, the disciples on the mountain peak and the sky stairway all stopped, their faces full of surprise. The white-haired old man guarding the sky stairway also opened his eyes and looked at the 4 people. But in the end, he didn't say anything and closed his eyes again. With Madman leading the way, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 followed closely behind, stepping up the sky stairway step by step. Feng Wenhai's corpse was still dripping blood, dyeing the sky stairway red. The disciples in front all made way. Everyone's expression was full of fear towards Madman, and no one dared to open their mouth to ask. He was like a demon king, making people afraid. Don't you think that the figure of the corpse seems a bit familiar? Familiar? Without a head, you can't tell who it is. But what is certain is that this person definitely provoked Madman and was killed by him. But why would he bring the corpse back to the ninth heaven palace? Could it be that this corpse is related to the ninth heaven palace? After the 4 of them left, the disciples immediately began to discuss in low voices. Hall Master. The Law Enforcement Hall. A woman in a black dress hurriedly ran into the hall. Sitting on the throne above, Shangguan Fenglan, who was handling affairs, looked at the woman in black suspiciously and said, Wang Yun, why are you in such a panic? Madman and Jiang Haotian came back with a headless corpse. Wang Yun said. What? Headless corpse? What do they want to do now? Shangguan Fenglan suddenly stood up. I don't know. However, I heard that the madman is very terrifying now. His baleful aura has never been seen before. Wang Yun said. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and asked, where are they now? Wang Yun said, they seem to be heading straight for the Great Council Hall. He even went to the conference hall. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and muttered, looks like it's not a small matter. I have to go and take a look. After saying that, she put down the matters in her hands and flew towards the conference hall. 9 Heavens Palaces Palace Master level and above, go to the Great Meeting Hall immediately. I have something important to say. At the same time, Madman's shout resounded like thunder, spreading throughout the entire 9 Heaven Palace. Lunatic! What is that bastard trying to do now? You really don't let me be at ease even for a day. Hearing this, all the leaders gathered in the conference hall with a helpless mood. Conference hall. Shangguan Fenglan was the first to arrive. Glancing at the empty hall, she didn't go in. Instead, she stood in the square outside. Whoosh! A short while later, one figure after another streaked across the sky. Among them was Feng Yuan. Someone asked, why did this lunatic suddenly call us here? I don't know. But in front of us, he doesn't dare to mess around. I think there really is something big. All the leaders were discussing. But Feng Yuan kept his head down and remained silent. There was a trace of suspicion between his brows. Didn't these people go to the Sky Dragon Sea early in the morning? Why did they come back? Swish! Not long after, another old figure appeared. Greetings, Grand Elder. All the leaders hurriedly bowed. Go in. The Grand Elder smiled, walked into the conference hall, and sat on the chair at the top. Grand Elder, do you know the purpose of Madman calling us here? Everyone also took their seats, then looked at the Grand Elder and asked. I'm not sure either. The Grand Elder shook his head and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. Don't look at me. I don't know either. Shangguan Fenglan smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder smiled and said, since no one knows, then it's fun. I think he's just messing around. Grand Elder, it's not that I want to say this, but you usually spoil him too much and spoil him. Feng Yuan said unhappily. Hee. Don't worry, whether he's messing around or not, we'll know later. The Grand Elder smiled. A moment later. Swish. Qin Feiyang and the other three arrived outside the conference hall. They really brought a corpse. Shangguan Fenglan was speechless. Wait a minute. Suddenly, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes as she looked at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Why did this corpse look a little familiar? At the same time, the other leaders were also looking at the corpse suspiciously, feeling that it was a little familiar. But at the same time, Feng Yuan suddenly stood up and stared at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Although there was no head, he recognized Feng Wenhai's clothes at a glance. Because just last night, he had sent a message to Feng Wenhai. At this moment, the clothes on this corpse were exactly the same as the clothes Feng Wenhai wore yesterday. The Grand Elder noticed Feng Yuan's reaction and asked suspiciously, Hall Master Feng Yuan, do you know who this corpse is? I'm not sure. Feng Yuan shook his head and returned to his chair, muttering, this must be a coincidence. Outside the door, the four of them looked at each other, then grabbed Feng Wenhai's corpse and entered the conference hall. Lunatic, what are you doing? This is the conference hall, how can you bring a corpse in? Hurry up and throw it out. Shangguan Fenglan shouted. This corpse is today's main character, how can I throw it out? Lunatic smiled coldly. Hearing this, the doubts on the faces of the leaders were even stronger. The Grand Elder looked at Lunatic and asked suspiciously, then who is this corpse? Lunatic said, he is, wait. Qin Feiyang suddenly spoke. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang again. Lunatic also turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, we still lack 2 people. Who? Lunatic asked. Qin Feiyang looked at the Grand Elder and bowed, these 2 people's identities are quite special, I hope that the Grand Elder can approve them to enter the 9 Heavens Palace. Who? The Grand Elder asked. Please allow this disciple to keep you in suspense. Qin Feiyang said. You brat, the Grand Elder shook his head and laughed, all right, as you wish. Thank you, Grand Elder. Qin Feiyang bowed and thanked him, then took out the image crystal. Buzz. Not long after, an old man's silhouette appeared. What? It's actually him. The leaders were suddenly in an uproar. The Grand Elder also stood up, his face full of anger. Because that shadow was the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. The Vice Pavilion Master also noticed the Grand Elder and the others, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Old Senior. Qin Feiyang bowed. The Vice Pavilion Master retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang, puzzled, little friend, what are you doing? Qin Feiyang didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point, Old Senior, please come to the 9 Heavens Palace immediately. The Vice Pavilion Master was stunned. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, you definitely understand. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, a cold light flashed in the Vice Pavilion Master's eyes, but he still hesitated. Qin Feiyang said, don't worry, the Grand Elder has already approved you to enter the 9 Heavens Palace. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at the Grand Elder in surprise and nodded, all right, this old man will be there immediately. We're in the conference hall. Qin Feiyang said again. N. The Vice Pavilion Master responded, and the shadow disappeared. Jiang Haotian, you're too presumptuous. Do you know that the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion is the executioner who killed the Grand Elder's son? He is the enemy of our 9 heavens palace. Grand Elder, this brat is too presumptuous. He might even be a spy that the treasure pavilion placed in our 9 heavens palace. Grand Elder, please kill him immediately. Feng Yuan shouted. The other big shots were also furious. Allowing the vice pavilion master of the treasure pavilion to enter the 9 heavens palace, wasn't this deliberately embarrassing the Grand Elder? Looking at the Grand Elder again. At this moment, he was looking at Qin Feiyang with a gloomy face. Shangguan Fenglan saw that the situation wasn't good and sent a message, Grand Elder, please calm down. Jiang Haotian isn't a reckless person. He must have a reason for letting the vice pavilion master of the treasure pavilion come to the 9 heavens palace. Let's wait and see. The Grand Elder took a deep breath and returned to his seat. Jiang Haotian, you better give this old man a satisfactory explanation. Otherwise, even if Madman protects you, you won't be able to walk out of this hall today. Qin Feiyang said respectfully, don't worry, I guarantee you'll be satisfied. That better be the case. After the Grand Elder finished speaking, he closed his eyes as if to calm the anger in his heart. Shangguan Fenglan also breathed a sigh of relief and asked, Jiang Haotian, didn't you say there were 2 people? Where's the other one? This disciple will inform him now. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and closed his eyes. Huh? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Wasn't he going to inform him? Why did he put away the image crystal and even close his eyes? What the hell was this kid doing? About 10 breaths later, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and smiled. This disciple has already informed him, he's on his way to the 9 heavens palace. Ah! The group of big shots looked at each other. Already informed? With his eyes closed, how could he inform the other party? Qin Feiyang said, this person's identity is more special than the vice pavilion master of the treasure pavilion, so please don't ask for the time being. What? More special than the vice pavilion master? Could he be the pavilion master of the treasure pavilion? Everyone was surprised. He's not the pavilion master of the treasure pavilion. His identity is actually very ordinary. But his appearance will bring everyone a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled. Surprise? Now that you mention it, I'm really looking forward to it. Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang smiled and fell silent, but his eyes were always on Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan also kept an eye on Feng Wenhai's body. Why were their clothes exactly the same? Could he be Wenhai? No. Absolutely impossible. Wenhai was hiding in Longquan Mountain, no one except him and Feng Zihan knew about it. Moreover, even if these people found Longquan Mountain, with their cultivation, it was impossible to kill Wenhai. This must be a coincidence. Chapter 2157. The conference hall fell into a deathly silence for the time being. Whing. Suddenly. Within the hall, the sound of the image crystal vibrating could be heard. Everyone looked at the Great Elder. The reason for that was because the voice had come from the First Elder. The Great Elder took out the image crystal. The image of a white-haired old man appeared. Looking at the white-haired old man, all the big shots present had a respectful expression. The white-haired old man looked at the Great Elder and asked, did you approve the Vice Pavilion Master to come to 9 Heavens Palace? The Great Elder nodded and said, there's another person. Who? The white-haired old man was suspicious. I don't know. You can ask him. The Great Elder shook his head and the image crystal turned to face Qin Feiyang. Greetings, old senior. The other person should be here soon. When the time comes, I'll have to trouble you to ask him. If he says that I asked him to come, then please let him enter 9 Heavens Palace. Qin Feiyang said respectfully. Okay. The white-haired old man nodded and then the image disappeared. Look, the stairway to heaven is warning. Who is he? He doesn't seem to be from our 9 Heavens Palace. You don't even know him. Let me tell you, he's the vice pavilion master of the treasure pavilion. What? He's the vice pavilion master of the treasure pavilion? Oh my God. He's a famous big shot in the northern region. I didn't expect that today. I would be lucky enough to see his face with my own eyes. The appearance of the vice pavilion master, without any suspense, caused another huge uproar in Nine Heavens Palace. Not long after the vice pavilion master entered Nine Heavens Palace, a middle-aged man appeared on the mountain peak. The middle-aged man stood at the bottom of the stairway and looked at Nine Heavens Palace with a hesitant expression. You are, Guyong. The white-haired old man opened his eyes and looked at the middle-aged man in surprise. Greetings, Lord. Guyong bowed and said, I didn't expect Lord to remember a small character like me. The white-haired old man asked, Jiang Haotian asked you to come, right? N. Guyong nodded. Then go up. The white-haired old man said and closed his eyes. Sigh. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Guyong sighed deeply and stepped onto the stairway to heaven. Conference hall. Whoosh. With a piercing sound, the deputy pavilion master landed on the square outside the gate. The deputy pavilion masters all looked over, their expressions extremely unfriendly. The great elder also opened his eyes, 2 rays of cold light shooting out from his eyes. Old senior. Qin Feiyang went up to him. Thank you for your hard work. The vice pavilion master laughed in a hoarse voice. I'm fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and helped the deputy pavilion master into the conference hall. Feng Yuan raged, Great Elder, look at his respectful attitude, he must be a spy planted by the treasure pavilion in our Nine Heavens Palace. Spies? Feng Yuan, do you really want to get rid of me so badly? Qin Feiyang sneered. Feng Yuan said, what I said is the truth. Don't worry. The truth will naturally become clear later. Qin Feiyang said. The deputy pavilion master glanced at Feng Yuan, then looked at the great elder sitting opposite him and said, I didn't expect you and I would meet again. Do you think this old man wants to see you? The great elder said expressionlessly. The deputy pavilion master said indifferently, to be honest, this old man doesn't want to see you either, but there are some things that must be resolved. The great elder raised his eyebrows and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. Give him a chair, lest he goes out and says that our Nine Heavens Palace bullied a disabled person like him. No need. This old man doesn't deserve it. The deputy pavilion master waved his hand and took out a simple wooden chair from his yin and yang ring, then sat upright on it. Although one of his legs was crippled, his invisible aura made the various authorities present feel ashamed of their inferiority. Qin Feiyang glanced at the deputy pavilion master and the great elder. It seemed that even if the truth was revealed, these 2 old men would still find it difficult to tolerate each other. Putting the great elder aside. As for the deputy pavilion master, it was the great elder who made him suffer all these years. And his leg was also crippled because of the great elder. Just imagine. After being wronged like this, who would easily forgive the other party? Soon. Guyong also appeared outside the council hall. What? It's actually him. Feng Yuan's body immediately stiffened. He seems to be Guyong. How could it be him? The other leaders were also bewildered. How is it? Lords, is this a surprise? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. This is a shock. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang speechlessly. For some people, it is indeed a shock. Qin Feiyang chuckled and glanced at Feng Yuan. Hearing this, Shangguan Fenglan finally understood what Qin Feiyang was going to do. He was going to make a move on Feng Yuan. At the same time, Guyong entered the hall, looked at Feng Yuan in fear, and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Standing next to Qin Feiyang, he felt a lot more at ease. Then, he bowed to the first elder and the other leaders. Greetings, first elder. Greetings, lords. The great elder also vaguely realized Qin Feiyang's purpose. He glanced at Guyong in the deputy pavilion master, then looked at Qin Feiyang in madman and said, "Now speak." Qin Feiyang sneered, kicked Feng Wenhai's body in front of Feng Yuan, and said, "Feng Yuan, do you really not recognize your son?" Feng Yuan's son. He is Feng Wenhai. The leaders were shocked. Hearing madman's words, Feng Yuan lowered his head to look at Feng Wenhai's body, and his face was pale. He had denied it in his heart more than once, but he didn't expect it to really be Feng Wenhai. The great elder glanced at Feng Yuan and transmitted his voice, "Feng Lan, you were right. Jiang Haotian is a character, the show is finally about to begin. And it's just that I don't understand, what does this have to do with the deputy pavilion master?" Shangguan Fenglan was full of doubts. This is also the problem this old man is puzzled about. The great elder thought. Why? Why did you kill Wenhai? Feng Yuan came back to his senses and immediately stared at Qin Feiyang and the others, roaring angrily. Shouldn't he be killed? Qin Feiyang asked. I admit that he did something wrong to you in the past, but those things have already ended. And ever since he was expelled from Nine Heavens Palace, he has been reflecting, blaming himself, and feeling guilty. He's already like this, why won't you let him go? Feng Yuan roared hysterically. Reflecting? Blaming himself? Feeling guilty? Qin Feiyang's face was full of mockery. How could he not know what kind of person Feng Wenhai was? How could he reflect? Not to mention blaming himself and feeling guilty. Plop. Feng Yuan knelt in front of the great elder and shouted, "These little bastards are simply too lawless, great elder, you must uphold justice for me. Don't worry. This old man will get to the bottom of this matter." The great elder comforted Feng Yuan, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "Speak, why did you kill Feng Wenhai?" Because he deserved to die. Not only did he deserve to die, but Feng Yuan also deserved to die. Frenzy roared, his eyes red. The powerhouses were surprised. The great elder was also stunned. After being together for so long, this was the first time he saw Frenzy so angry. What secrets were hidden in this? Qin Feiyang said, "Senior brother Frenzy, calm down, let me handle it." Okay. Frenzy nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and said, "Old bastard, you've done a lot of shady things over the years. You want to slander this old man? This old man has done righteous things, I'm not afraid of your slander. Why don't you tell everyone what I've done that can't be exposed?" Feng Yuan sneered. "You used your power, embezzled public funds, and cheated for personal gains. That's your first crime. You added fuel to the fire behind the scenes, bribing people from the law enforcement hall with the intention of letting Feng Wenhai and Yin Hui take over Shangguan Fenglan. That's your second crime. As the hall master of the resource hall, as the person in charge of Nine Heavens Palace, you should take care of us disciples, but you repeatedly instigated Feng Wenhai, Jin Yunchang, and Jin Fatso to frame us, wanting to kill us. That's your third crime. You used the trust of others to harm your fellow disciples, deceiving your superiors and subordinates, that's your fourth crime. And, there are too many, I can't even count them. You're scum, you don't deserve to live in this world." Qin Feiyang shouted. I cheated for personal gains. Took over Shangguan Fenglan. Framed you. Harmed fellow disciples. Your imagination is really rich. Okay. Even if what you said is true, where's the evidence? Take out the evidence. Don't tell me you want Guyong to testify. Who doesn't know that Guyong is now your man, who will believe what he says? Feng Yuan's face was full of ridicule. But in his heart, he was shocked. She had actually investigated his background so thoroughly without anyone noticing. Guiyong was once your confidant, why can't his words be trusted? Qin Feiyang asked. That was in the past. Now that he's your man, he will naturally collude with you to slander this old man. Feng Yuan sneered. Is that so? I heard from Guillaume that you have an account book in your hands. In this account book, there is evidence of your corruption over the years. I think this account book should be with you now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Guillaume said, it's in his qi, stored in a box. Damn it. Feng Yuan cursed, his heart suddenly panicking. What's wrong? Are you starting to panic? Do you know why I asked Gongzi Feng to tell you that Guillaume has been killed by me when I was in prison? Qin Feiyang joked. Why? Feng Yuan said in a deep voice. The chief elder and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Chapter 2158. It's very simple. It's for the account book. If I tell you that Guiyong is still alive, then you definitely won't keep the account book with you. Because with your intelligence, you can imagine that Guiyong would tell me about this. Once this matter blows up, the first elder will definitely search you. On the contrary. When you know that Guiyong is dead, you will let down your guard. Because there is no place safer than keeping it with you. Qin Feiyang said. Smart. Feng Yuan gave him a thumbs up, but he was not worried at all. He laughed and said, but this old man still has the same words. If you are upright, you are not afraid of a body search. First elder, please search. Huh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He actually took the initiative to ask for a body search. The first elder glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Shengguan Fenglan and said, search. Yes. Shengguan Fenglan nodded, got up, and released her divine sense to cover Feng Yuan. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice and said, this old fart is also too calm and collected. He is indeed too calm. Is the account book not with him? Maybe it has been destroyed by him. Qin Feiyang muttered. It can't be destroyed. Once the account book is destroyed, then it can't be matched. It must be hidden somewhere. Guillaume said telepathically. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and he glanced at Feng Wenhai's body. Such an important thing would definitely be kept by the people he trusted the most. The people Feng Yuan trusted the most now were undoubtedly Feng Wenhai and Feng Zihan. Because there were only these two people left in the Feng family now. A moment later. Shengguan Fenglan retracted her divine sense, looked at the first elder, and shook her head. No. The first elder said, search the interspatial ring again. Yes. Shengguan Fenglan nodded and looked at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan did not hesitate at all, directly took off the interspatial ring and threw it to Shengguan Fenglan. Looking at the calm Feng Yuan, Qin Feiyang and the others were basically sure that the account book was not with Feng Yuan now. Qin Feiyang once again offered Wenhai's corpse. There was also an interspatial ring on Feng Wenhai's left index finger. He looked at the interspatial ring with flickering eyes. Several dozen breaths later. Shengguan Fenglan looked at the first elder again and shook her head. No. Jiang Haotian, how is it? The truth is the truth. What else do you have to say now? Feng Yuan sneered. Qin Feiyang remained silent. Great elder, this is purely because they colluded to frame me. Please punish them severely and give me justice. Feng Yuan looked at the first elder and called out. The great elder furrowed his brows imperceptibly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said in a deep voice, framing a hall master is not a small crime. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he shot towards Feng Wenhai's corpse. What do you want to do? Feng Yuan was shocked. He hurriedly stood in front of Feng Wenhai's corpse and shouted at Qin Feiyang. What are you doing? I just want to see Feng Wenhai's interspatial ring. Why are you so nervous? Qin Feiyang said. Why am I nervous? The dead is more important. I won't allow you to desecrate his corpse. Feng Yuan shouted. Is that so? Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. He was already sure that the account book was with Feng Wenhai. Firstly, Feng Yuan's reaction was too abnormal. Secondly, Feng Zihan was too young and was still in Jiutian Palace. Feng Yuan would definitely not trust her. But Feng Wenhai was different. He was cunning. And he was hiding in Longquan Mountain. So it was safer to leave the account book with Feng Wenhai. Feng Yuan said angrily, what do you think? I think the account book is with Feng Wenhai. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and looked at the first elder. He bowed and said, First elder, please search Feng Wenhai. With Feng Yuan blocking him, he definitely couldn't get close, so he could only ask the first elder to do it. The first elder nodded and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. Go search. First elder, the dead are more important. Feng Yuan shouted. Shangguan Fenglan stepped forward and said, Feng Yuan, please get out of the way. No. You can't treat Wenhai like this. He's already dead. Can you respect him? Feng Yuan said angrily. Shangguan Fenglan frowned. Feng Yuan, it's not a matter of respect now. It's about your innocence. If you stop me like this, then I have reason to suspect that what Jiang Haotian said is true. The first elder said. Feng Yuan's face was gloomy. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered, and suddenly a sense of uneasiness emerged in his heart. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission, Hall Master, be careful of him destroying the corpse. Shangguan Fenglan heard this and her heart trembled. She shouted, Feng Yuan, you don't even listen to the first elder's order. Get out of the way immediately. Feng Yuan's eyes trembled. Immediately after. A hint of fierceness flashed in his eyes, and he roared, even if I destroy him with my own hands, I won't let you touch his corpse. Boom! As he roared, he threw a punch at Feng Wenhai's corpse. This brat guessed correctly. He really wants to destroy the corpse to destroy the evidence. Shangguan Fenglan muttered. Swish! She reached out like lightning, grabbed Feng Yuan's wrist, and then kicked at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Feng Wenhai's corpse immediately flew to the feet of Qin Feiyang and the others. Shangguan Fenglan shouted without turning her head, search him immediately. Qin Feiyang nodded, and his divine sense emerged and poured into Feng Wenhai's body. Shangguan Fenglan, you've gone too far. Feng Yuan roared and slapped at Shangguan Fenglan. Feng Yuan, how dare you be presumptuous? The great elder suddenly shouted coldly, and a vast and mighty pressure rolled out. Feng Yuan was confined to the spot on the spot, unable to move at all. This is the first elder's strength? Even Feng Yuan can't move under his pressure. Qin Feiyang looked at the great elder who was sitting at the top in shock. The first elder shouted, what are you looking at? Search quickly. Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly, and his divine sense quickly poured into Feng Wenhai's qi. Immediately. His eyes lit up. Immediately after. A black iron box appeared from Feng Wenhai's qi. Seeing Qin Feiyang find the black iron box, Feng Yuan immediately closed his eyes in despair. Qin Feiyang stood up and opened the iron box, and saw a yellowing account book lying quietly inside. That's it. Guiyong went forward to take a look and immediately exclaimed. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and sneered, then handed the account book to Shangguan Fenglan. Shangguan Fenglan then handed the account book to the first elder. The great elder took the account book and flipped it open to read it carefully. 2 pinnacle divine artifacts. 3 pinnacle divine arts. 50 million soul stones. 70 million soul stones. 200 million soul stones. 3 billion divine crystals. These were the contents of the account book, which was the things that Feng Yuan had embezzled. It was recorded very clearly, even the dates were recorded. The account book was as thick as a finger. And on it, there was actually a full half of the account book. It was hard to imagine how much Feng Yuan had embezzled over the years. Bastard! The first elder only read a dozen pages before he couldn't continue reading. He angrily slammed the account book on the table and shouted at the major giants, "All of you also take a good look for this old man. This is the good deed that our Nine Heavens Palace Resource Hall Master has done all these years." Everyone looked at each other. How much had he embezzled to make the first elder so angry? Shangguan Fenglan was the first to grab the account book, looked at it carefully for a while, and then slammed the account book on the table with a face full of anger. Immediately after, the major giants also looked at the account book one after another. Without exception, they were all filled with anger in the end. The first elder released his pressure and looked at Feng Yuan. "You are really amazing, you are really our role model." Plop! Feng Yuan's body trembled and knelt on the ground powerlessly. "You are deceiving the trust of this old man and the deputy pavilion master in you. Such a person's death is not to be regretted." The first elder shouted. "First elder, I was wrong, I was wrong. Please have mercy, I will definitely repent, give me another chance. Everyone, please help me beg for mercy. In the past, I was really muddle-headed, I will definitely repent and turn over a new leaf." Feng Yuan's body and mind were trembling. It was obvious that the first elder had the intention to kill him, and he begged again and again. However, none of the major giants present paid attention to him. Because they also knew that Feng Yuan's luck was over. If they continued to help Feng Yuan, it would be asking for trouble. At that time, the first elder might even punish them together. "First elder, I beg you. I really know that I was wrong. Just give me another chance on account of the hard work I've put in all these years, even if I haven't made any contributions." Feng Yuan was already flustered. "Chance? Forget it, my Nine Heavens Palace can't afford to raise a talent like you. Hand over your identity token, and scram. From now on, whether it is you or your descendants, you are not allowed to enter the Nine Heavens Palace. Protect Feng Zihan." The first elder said expressionlessly. "What? Even Zihan has to leave the Nine Heavens Palace?" Feng Yuan's face turned pale. "First elder, this matter has nothing to do with Zihan, it is all my fault, please let Zihan go, okay?" But for this result, Qin Feiyang was deeply surprised. He actually didn't kill Feng Yuan, but only expelled him from the Nine Heavens Palace. What was this first elder thinking? Frenzy secretly said, "This result, I have already expected it." Expected? Qin Feiyang frowned. Although Feng Yuan has indeed embezzled a lot, but as he said, even if there is no merit, there is still hard work. The old man will not kill him. Frenzy said. Qin Feiyang transmitted, "In that case, we still have to use our ultimate move." Yes. Frenzy nodded. "I don't object to you using your ultimate move, but can you keep the Golden Crow Temple a secret?" Mu Tianyang secretly said. It wasn't easy to obtain a spatial divine item with a time array, he didn't want to lose it just like that. Frenzy glanced at Mu Tianyang and didn't say anything. The first elder looked at Feng Yuan gloomily. "This old man doesn't want to hear any more nonsense, immediately take Feng Zihan and scram out of the Nine Heavens Palace." Feng Yuan collapsed on the ground like a dead dog, his face filled with despair. But at this time, Qin Feiyang spoke. "First elder, wait, this disciple has something to say." The first elder looked at Qin Feiyang. "This old man knows what you want to say. But this old man has made up his mind. Do you really know what this disciple wants to say? If it is for such a small matter, would senior brother Frenzy be so angry? If it is for such a small matter, would this disciple invite the vice pavilion master to our Nine Heavens Palace? Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the vice pavilion master's old eyes flashed. The first elder's expression froze. Shengguan Fenglan and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Could there be something more serious? Chapter 2159. Feng Yuan also stared at Qin Feiyang and roared, Jiang Haotian, I've already become like this. What else do you want to do? Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and said, let's not beat around the bush. I want your life. Don't go too far. Feng Yuan was furious. Why didn't I see you restrain yourself when you bullied us? I'm also telling you, you absolutely won't leave this meeting hall alive today. Qin Feiyang said. Looking at Qin Feiyang's firm attitude, Feng Yuan couldn't help but panic again. Could it be that this boy really had something more terrible than his corruption and perversion of the law in his hands? The first elder and Shengguan Fenglan looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, then say it. They were actually looking forward to it. Qin Feiyang looked at the first elder and said, do you still remember how your son died? The first elder's hands suddenly clenched tightly together, and his gloomy eyes also turned to the deputy pavilion master. However, the deputy pavilion master was very calm. But at the same time, Feng Yuan's eyes trembled slightly, and his heart was full of doubts. Why did he suddenly mention the first elder's son? Qin Feiyang glanced at Feng Yuan, then looked at the first elder and said, don't be angry. In fact, you have been misunderstanding the deputy pavilion master all this time. The first elder shouted, this is what Feng Yuan said himself. Is it a misunderstanding? Qin Feiyang said, it's precisely because Feng Yuan said it that it's a big misunderstanding. What do you mean? The first elder frowned. Qin Feiyang said, because your son was not killed by the deputy pavilion master, but by Feng Yuan. What? Feng Yuan killed him? Shengguan Fenglan and the other giants were all dumbfounded. The first elder was also dumbfounded. How could it be Feng Yuan? Feng Yuan's body also shook violently. How did this boy know? No. This matter absolutely could not be allowed to continue to develop. At this point, Feng Yuan glared at Qin Feiyang and roared, you're slandering me. Do you know my relationship with the great elder's son? No matter how much of a bastard I am, I can't be so ungrateful as to kill him. Great elder, please don't listen to his nonsense. He's obviously in cahoots with the vice pavilion master to take my life. Feng Yuanqi said angrily. Hearing Feng Yuan's words, first elder's expression also became hesitant. Qin Feiyang wasn't in a hurry. He looked at Feng Yuan and smiled, of course I know about your relationship. You used to be just a little follower by his side. Yes, I'm your follower. But in my heart, he has always been my big brother. And he's very good to me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. Such a benefactor, even if I lose my conscience and my humanity, I will not harm him. Feng Yuan roared. Benefactor? Feng Yuan, oh Feng Yuan, so you also know that he's very good to you. You also know that without him, you wouldn't be where you are today. But how did you repay him? Back then, after snatching the 9th level soul vein, although he was seriously injured by the vice pavilion master, it wasn't fatal. It's you who killed him on the way back when he wasn't paying attention. It's also you who killed everyone accompanying him. That's not enough. When you returned to the 9th Heaven Palace, you still pushed all the blame to the vice pavilion master, causing him to be wronged for so many years. You even crippled one of his legs. This is all your masterpiece. Tell me, do you really have a conscience? Qin Feiyang shouted. Every word made Feng Yuan speechless. At the same time, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the vice pavilion master's eyes couldn't help but fill with tears. For so many years, every day felt like a year to him. Now, the truth was finally coming out. He was happy. Nonsense, nonsense. Feng Yuan came back to his senses and immediately roared, First Elder, this isn't true. Please investigate clearly. Shut up. The Great Elder shouted coldly. Feng Yuan's body trembled. If you are really wronged, this old man will clear your name. The Great Elder said gloomily, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Do you have evidence? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and shouted, Guyong. Guyong immediately stood up, looked at the Great Elder and said, I can testify to this, it's absolutely true. Guyong, what benefits did you receive from Jiang Haotian to frame me like this? Feng Yuan said angrily. Frame you? Have you forgotten? Once when we were drinking in private, you drank too much and told me yourself. Guyong sneered. Ridiculous, ridiculous. If this is true, how could I tell you? Great Elder, they colluded long ago. You must not listen to them, this is a great injustice. Feng Yuan shouted. I have long expected that Guyong's testimony alone will not be able to make you confess. Qin Feiyang sneered. The Great Elder said in a deep voice, So, you still have evidence in your hands? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. I'll kill you. Feng Yuan was flustered and exasperated. In an instant, he rushed in front of Qin Feiyang and threw a punch at Qin Feiyang's head. Humph. But at the same time, Shangguan Fenglan snorted coldly and also instantly stood in front of Qin Feiyang and slapped him fiercely. Duh. Feng Yuan was actually pushed back. It could be seen that Shangguan Fenglan's strength was stronger than Feng Yuan's. What? A cornered dog will jump over the wall and want to kill me to silence me. Qin Feiyang sneered and said, Now, I will take out the evidence and convince you. After saying that, Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal. A video slowly unfolded. It was the video of Feng Wenhai's confession. It's really Feng Yuan. Damn it, it turns out that he is the real murderer of the Great Elder's son. This is really inhumane. Back then, the Great Elder's son took care of him so much, but he actually did such a thing. As soon as the video ended, the giants immediately roared angrily. Feng Yuan. The Great Elder roared. His gloomy eyes were like that of a demon. Great Elder, it's not like that, Feng Yuan waved his hand repeatedly, extremely flustered. It's not like that. Could it be that your own son would join them in framing you? The Great Elder laughed angrily. Wenhai definitely won't frame me, but he must have been forced to say these words. Feng Yuan said. Even now, you still want to quibble. You are really stubborn. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Feng Yuan roared, I didn't do it. Wenhai must have been forced by you. What a joke. Feng Wenhai was killed by me. Do you think I would force him? Madman couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted. Feng Yuan said, You and Jiang Haotian were originally in cahoots. What a joke. You actually dare to bite back. Alright, I will let you die with understanding. Madman laughed angrily and swept his gaze across the giants. Haven't you always been curious why the old man took care of me so much? Now I will tell you, the old man's son is my foster father. What? Foster father? Everyone was dumbfounded. Didn't this mean that the Great Elder was Madman's grandfather? Foster father. Feng Yuan also opened his eyes wide in anger. This madman was actually the foster son of the Great Elder's son. Then what he said had enough credibility. What should we do? Feng Yuan panicked, completely panicked. Shangguan Fenglan also found it hard to accept. She looked at the Great Elder and asked, Great Elder, is this true? N. The Great Elder nodded. Everyone fell silent. Since the Great Elder admitted it, then it must be true. That madman naturally couldn't be with Jiang Haotian to frame Feng Yuan. Then everything would be real. You are all old friends of Wu Yuan. You know his personality. He is eccentric, arrogant, and never looks down on anyone. But one day, he suddenly ran back and told me that he had taken a liking to a young man and wanted to take him as his foster son. I was very surprised at that time. What kind of young man could make him appreciate him so much? But at that time, Wu Yuan just smiled mysteriously and didn't say anything. And he didn't bring Madman into the Nine-Heaven Palace. He said he wanted to teach him privately. Although I wanted to know, I didn't force him. Then one day, a 9th-level soul vein appeared in the Sky Dragon Sea. Wu Yuan brought people to the Sky Dragon Sea to snatch the soul vein. You all know the result. On the 3rd day after Wu Yuan died, Madman appeared with the token that Wu Yuan gave him. From then on, I brought him back to the Nine-Heaven Palace and taught him carefully. In the end, it was proven that Wu Yuan didn't make a mistake. He is a promising talent. But Wu Yuan and I never mentioned Madman's identity to anyone, so you all don't know. Even Feng Yuan didn't know of Madman's existence. Great Elder said. So that's how it is. Everyone was enlightened. Actually, Madman didn't have such a personality in the past. It was because of Wu Yuan's death that he slowly became like this. So all these years, no matter how much trouble he caused, this old man turned a blind eye to it. And in my heart, he isn't Wu Yuan's foster son. He is Wu Yuan's biological son. He is also my biological grandson. Great Elder looked at Madman with doting eyes and smiled. Sigh. Everyone sighed. First, it was because of Madman. Generally speaking, once a person's personality was formed, it was hard to change unless they suffered a huge blow. And for Madman to become like this, it wasn't hard to imagine how big of a blow his foster father's death was to him. Second, it was because of Great Elder's son. Thinking back, how good was he to Feng Yuan? But what did he get in return? It was repaying kindness with enmity. It wasn't worth it. Fated? Senior brother, Fated is your foster father? Qin Feiyang secretly said. N. My foster father's full name is Mo Wuyuan. Madman transmitted. Mo Fated? Fated? This name is a little strange. Fated, no share. Could it be that Great Elder will say that his character is aloof and arrogant? Qin Feiyang mumbled. What? Madman looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Did you hear wrongly? It's not Fated, it's Wu Yuan, the source of origin. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. He really heard wrongly. Madman rolled his eyes and looked at Feng Yuan. Do you still want to continue quibbling? Chapter 2160. Feng Yuan lay paralyzed on the ground, his eyes unfocused. Now, how could he dare to quibble? Other than despair and fear in his heart, there was nothing else. No. There was hatred for Feng Wenhai. That's right. He hated Feng Wenhai right now. Since he was going to die anyway, why drag him down? What a white-eyed wolf. Madman took a deep breath and retracted his gaze. He looked at the Great Elder and said, Old man, I'm a little tired. I'll go back and rest first. You can do as you see fit. Finished. Madman turned around and left alone. The Great Elder glanced at Madman, then lowered his head to look at Feng Yuan. A cold light surged in his eyes as he said, corruption, favoritism, betrayal, and killing fellow disciples. Even if you die, it will be difficult for you to forgive your sins. However, Feng Yuan acted as if he didn't hear it. He didn't seem angry at all. But suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and the fire of hope ignited in his eyes. He secretly shouted to Mu Tianyang, immediately capture Jiang Haotian and Hui for me. Why? Mu Tianyang was taken aback and asked curiously. Hua Yi is the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, and Jiang Haotian is also highly regarded by Shangguan Fenglan and the Great Elder. As long as I capture the two of them, I can use them to threaten the Great Elder and escape. Feng Yuan secretly said. Good idea. But why should I listen to you? Mu Tianyang snickered. What? You dare to disobey my orders? Believe it or not, I will erase your divine soul right now. Feng Yuan shouted. He, even now, why are you still so naive? Am I, Mu Tianyang, the kind of person who would place my life in the hands of others? Mu Tianyang sneered and said, Qin Feiyang, quickly remove Feng Yuan's control over me. Qin Feiyang heard this and immediately formed a seal. An enslavement seal rapidly appeared and sank into Mu Tianyang's head like lightning. Pfft! Immediately, Feng Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? Feng Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang and Yi Zichen in disbelief. They had actually broken his control over Mu Tianyang. The Great Elder and the others looked at Qin Feiyang and Yi Shiwen in confusion. Truth be told, when we entered the resource hall, Mu Tianyang had been lurking beside Feng Yuan for the sake of finding this evidence. For example, back then, we were assassinated outside the northern city gates. It was Feng Yuan who ordered it. Furthermore, an outer court disciple by the name of Ma Guang was also killed by Feng Yuan. We have all the evidence. Of course. With Feng Yuan's personality, he definitely wouldn't trust Mu Tianyang so easily. Therefore, he used a kind of control secret technique to control him. He thought that this was foolproof, but he didn't know that I can remove his control over Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang smiled. Remove the control? How is this possible? Shouldn't this kind of control secret technique be removed by the person himself? When the giants heard this, they were all in disbelief. Feng Yuan was dumbstruck. It turned out that this was a trap from the beginning. To think that he thought that Mu Tianyang was already firmly in his hands. It was indeed ridiculous. The Great Elder also looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. But soon after, his eyes flashed with strong killing intent. He turned to look at Feng Yuan and said, Pay the price for your mistakes. Don't, Great Elder, don't kill me, please, I'm willing to forgive you. Feng Yuan's body trembled as he hurriedly roared. What do you have to forgive me? The Great Elder roared as a wisp of divine power emerged, emitting a world-destroying aura. Can I be your slave for the rest of my life? Feng Yuan shouted. You're not qualified. The Great Elder laughed coldly. His divine power cut through the sky and swept towards Feng Yuan's forehead. Although it was only a wisp of divine power, Feng Yuan couldn't help but feel a chill all over his body. Jiang Haotian, this is all your fault. I'll perish together with you. All of a sudden, he raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang as he roared. Immediately after, a destructive aura roared out from his body. Not good. It's self-destruction. Qin Feiyang, Hua Yi, Mu Tianyang, and Guyong's faces suddenly changed. Even Shangguan Fenglan and the group of giants turned pale with fright. With Feng Yuan's cultivation, if he were to self-destruct, no one here, except for the Great Elder and the Deputy Pavilion Master, would be able to survive. Even the entire Nine Heaven Palace would be razed to the ground. In other words, Feng Yuan's successful self-destruction was a disaster for the Nine Heaven Palace. All of you, go to hell with this old man. Feng Yuan laughed sinisterly. You don't have the ability. The Great Elder said coldly. With a wave of his hand, the wisp of divine power that was rushing towards Feng Yuan's forehead suddenly changed direction and with a swoosh, it disappeared into Feng Yuan's Qi-Si. Accompanied by a scream, Feng Yuan's Qi-Si shattered on the spot, and the self-destruction was forcibly stopped. The shattering of his chi si also made him instantly fall to the bottom of the valley, and all his hopes were dashed. This time, he didn't even have the chance to self-destruct. As for the divine soul, although it could also be used as a means of attack, with the great elder's strength, he could probably destroy it with a wave of his hand. Now, he could only wait for death. I originally wanted to give you a quick death and directly kill you. But your stubbornness has completely infuriated this old man. Now, it's difficult for you to die even if you want to. The great elder smiled coldly and took out a small transparent jade bottle from his Qian Kun ring, which contained a blood-red liquid. That is, the deputy pavilion master's pupils contracted. Qin Feiyang noticed the deputy pavilion master's abnormality and asked, "Old senior, what is that?" "That is the bone-corroding spirit thread." The deputy pavilion master secretly said. "What?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. This was a highly toxic poison that could cripple the deputy pavilion master. The great elder walked step by step in front of Feng Yuan. "No, I beg you, no." Feng Yuan looked at the jade bottle, his face full of horror. However, the great elder turned a deaf ear to him. He grabbed Feng Yuan's chin and poured the entire bottle of poison directly into Feng Yuan's mouth. "Ruthless!" The deputy pavilion master muttered. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "You don't know how terrifying the bone-corroding spirit thread is. Back then, only 3 drops were enough to cripple one of my legs. You can imagine what will happen if Feng Yuan drinks the whole bottle. Now, I'm afraid even a divine pill can't save him." The deputy pavilion master secretly said. 3 drops were enough to cripple one of your legs? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. "Yes. And after so many years, I still haven't refined it," the deputy pavilion master said. Qin Feiyang's heart was surging with waves of shock. He had never thought that the bone-corroding spirit thread would be so terrifying. At the same time, Feng Yuan was lying on the ground, frantically clutching his throat, trying to spit it out. However, he had underestimated the bone-corroding spirit thread. In less than 3 breaths, the poison began to take effect. And along the blood, it quickly spread to every cell in the body. Immediately. He held his head and kept rolling on the ground, screaming miserably. "Great elder, I beg you, let me go." Severe pain swept through his whole body. Despair drowned his entire soul. He felt as if there were countless ants running wildly in his body, gnawing at his flesh and blood. He didn't want to die. But in the face of his pleas, the great elder's face was still cold. More than 10 breaths passed. He had already become a bloody man. His endurance had reached its limit. Bang bang bang. His head was constantly smashing on the ground. He didn't want to be tortured like this anymore. He wanted to end his life like this. However, although his sea of qi was destroyed, the strength of his physical body did not change at all. As a result, not only did he not end his life, but he also smashed a large piece of the hard ground. "Great elder, please give me a quick death, I beg you." Feng Yuan cried out. He no longer hoped to live. He only hoped to end this pain as soon as possible. This was what it meant to be unable to live or die. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. Mu Tianyang looked at the miserable Feng Yuan and said to Qin Feiyang, "In the future, we must stay away from this old man." "I think so too. It's too scary," Qin Feiyang secretly said. He was no stranger to poison. Because Viper was also a master of poison. But in front of this old man, Viper was not even qualified to carry his shoes. This was a true venomous creature. However, Feng Yuan deserved it. Serves him right. The giants also looked at Feng Yuan coldly, without the slightest sympathy. Because such a person, even if it was cut into pieces, it would not be too much. Gradually, Feng Yuan couldn't even move an inch. Because all the bones in his body had been corroded by the bone-corroding spirit silk. If at this moment he released his spirit sense to observe Feng Yuan's body, he would be shocked to find that all the bones in Feng Yuan's body had turned into ashes. In other words, he no longer had bones, only flesh and blood. Even his flesh and blood were being crazily corroded by the bone-corroding spirit silk. I beg you, he did not even have the strength to open his mouth. Like a pile of mud, he lay on the ground, silently begging. However, his pleading didn't cause the first elder to feel any pity for him. His flesh and blood disappeared little by little. Even his skin was rotting, as if it was being eaten by insects. About a few hundred breaths passed. Feng Yuan completely dissipated, leaving only a pool of blood to prove that he had existed. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang's fear of the great elder also became deeper and deeper. A living person was forcibly corroded just like that. This kind of old poison was not something they could provoke. But at the same time, they also heaved a sigh of relief. Feng Yuan, that old bastard, was finally dead. They would not be afraid of being plotted against in the future. Especially Mu Tianyang. Feng Yuan did not say anything about the Golden Crow Temple before he died. To him, this was something to be happy about. Wait a minute. The deputy pavilion master seemed to know that the Golden Crow Temple was with him. Please don't say it. Otherwise, the great elder would definitely ask him to hand it over. In the past, he was full of confidence that even if the great elder knew, he would be able to protect the Golden Crow Temple. But now, after seeing the great elder's means, he realized how naive and childish his confidence and thoughts were. This old man doesn't want to make a big deal out of this. But you've all seen the first elder's attitude. If it were you, would you be able to tolerate such an attitude? This old man believes that no one can tolerate this. This matter has nothing to do with the three of you, so please don't interfere. If you need anything in the future, feel free to look for this old man at the treasure pavilion. Once again, I would like to express my gratitude to the three of you. After the vice pavilion master finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the hall, not looking back. Qin Feiyang was burning with anxiety. He looked at the first elder and said, "First elder, enough. You're just a disciple. What qualifications do you have to interrupt our matters?" The first elder shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and a burst of anger rose in his heart. He said expressionlessly, "Fine, I'll take my leave. You can do whatever you want. Goodbye." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned and left angrily. This old bastard was not only unreasonable, he was simply impervious to reason. Ha! Mu Tianyang shook his head and sighed. He cupped his hands and said, "This disciple will also take his leave." After he finished speaking, he gave Guiyong a look and hurriedly left. Guiyong naturally didn't dare to stay any longer. Hua Yi didn't leave. He looked at the first elder and said, "First elder, don't blame Jiang Haotian and the others. This matter is indeed your fault." The first elder angrily said, "But what this old man said is also the truth. Yes. It's because the vice pavilion lord seriously injured your son that Feng Yuan found an opportunity. But have you thought about it? The vice pavilion lord was already merciful back then. Moreover, he didn't know that Feng Yuan would plot against your son. Everyone has a temper," Wang Chong said. The vice pavilion lord has been wronged for so many years and even lost one of his legs because of you. He just wants you to give him an explanation. Is this too much? Fine. If you won't listen, then I won't talk nonsense. You're on your own. But there is one thing you must remember. Don't bring disaster to our Nine Heavens Palace because of your own selfishness. If that really happens, you won't be able to atone for your sins even if you die." After Hua Yi finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the hall, chasing after Qin Feiyang and the others. "Rebel, rebel, all of them are rebelling. Great Elder was fuming with rage, furious to the extreme. Shangguan Fenglan and the others looked at each other. Although they also felt that the First Elder's actions were somewhat lacking in consideration, no one dared to say anything. In the conference hall, other than the First Elder's anger, it fell into a dead silence. Outside, Hui Yi called out to Qin Feiyang, "Brother Jiang, wait for me." Qin Feiyang stopped. Mu Tianyang and Guyong also stopped and turned to look at Hui Yi. When Hui Yi caught up, Mu Tianyang said, "You're the Vice Pavilion Lord's disciple. Shouldn't you stay in the conference hall and persuade the First Elder?" "Forget it. That old man is still angry. The more I persuade him, the more he'll get angry. Let's wait for him to calm down first." Hui Yi waved his hand. Qin Feiyang sighed, "I didn't expect our Nine Heavens Palace's First Elder to be like this." Hui Yi asked, "Are you disappointed?" "A little." Qin Feiyang did not deny it. But it didn't matter. He wouldn't stay in Nine Heavens Palace forever. And Nine Heavens Palace couldn't give him a sense of belonging. "In fact, I'm also very angry. But he's still the First Elder. What can I do?" Hui Yi shook his head and sighed. Qin Feiyang smiled, looked at Guyong beside him, and said, "You can go now." "All right." Guyong couldn't wait to leave Nine Heavens Palace. Right now, Nine Heavens Palace was a place of trouble for him. The further away he was, the better. "Wait." Suddenly, Qin Feiyang called out to Guyong again. "What's wrong?" Guyong stopped and looked back at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then smiled, "Your performance these few times has been very good, and now that Feng Yuan is dead, I don't need your help anymore. I'll remove my control over you." "Really?" Guyong was stunned. Qin Feiyang nodded and immediately removed the slave seal. "Thank you." Guyong was overjoyed. "Don't be happy too early. Although I've removed my control over you, if I find out that you're doing something outrageous again, I won't let you go." Qin Feiyang said. "Don't worry. After experiencing this period of time, I've thought it through. There's nothing better than being alive. Right now, I just want to peacefully accompany my family." Guyong laughed. "It's good that you have this awareness." Qin Feiyang smiled with relief and said, "When you have time, have a few more children. After all, you have to pass down your legacy." Guyong scratched his head and laughed dryly, "Actually, I also have this plan." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "All right then, go back and reunite with your family." "All right. Take care of yourselves." Guyong cupped his hands and turned into a stream of light, breaking through the sky like lightning. Hui Yi laughed. In the past, he followed Feng Yuan and did all kinds of evil. I didn't expect that now, he would actually become a good person. People, after experiencing some things, will definitely change more or less. It's just that some people become good and some people become bad. Qin Feiyang said. "Then what's next? Are we still going to Sky Dragon Sea?" Hui Yi asked. "Feng Yuan has been eliminated, there's no need to go anymore." Qin Feiyang laughed. "That's true." Hui Yi nodded and said, "Then, we will continue to work in the resource hall." "Definitely. The treatment in the resource hall is so good, how can we lose this job?" Mu Tianyang laughed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and looked at the two of them. "You guys go back first, I still have something to deal with." "What is it?" The two of them were curious. "It's a secret." Qin Feiyang smiled. The two of them rolled their eyes. "All right, we will go first. Brother Mu, let's go." After Hui Yi finished speaking, he turned and flew in the direction of the resource hall. Mu Tianyang looked at Hui Yi's back and looked at Qin Feiyang, whispering, "You really don't want to go to Sky Dragon Sea?" Of course. I said that just now because I don't want Hui Yi to follow me. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Mu Tianyang said, then what about frenzy? Qin Feiyang pondered and secretly said, frenzy doesn't matter, anyway, he knows my true identity. Alright. When you set off, let me know in advance. Mu Tianyang said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. After Mu Tianyang left, Qin Feiyang turned around and looked at the conference hall. A glint flashed across his eyes as he flew towards the Lotus Lake. Chapter 2162. Lotus Lake. Blue waves rippled and lotus flowers bloomed. Quiet and peaceful. Qin Feiyang landed on the balcony. He knew that Shangguan Fenglan had not returned, so he stood by the balcony, admiring the scenery while pondering. His original plan was to go to the Sky Dragon Sea first and then get rid of Feng Yuan. But why did he change his plan at the last minute? In fact, it was for this moment. Because as long as he got rid of Feng Yuan, he would be able to enter the Vice Palace Master's study. This was the condition that he had agreed on with Shangguan Fenglan. At this moment, he had been waiting for a long time. Therefore, when Lunatic said that he wanted to return to Nine Heavens Palace, he nodded in agreement. Time passed quietly. About an hour passed. Finally, a woman in a light purple dress broke through the air. It was Shangguan Fenglan. Looking at Qin Feiyang standing on the balcony, Shangguan Fenglan was slightly stunned. Then, she landed beside Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "Are you waiting for me?" Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and said speechlessly, "If I wasn't waiting for you, why would I be standing here? Is it because of the Vice Pavilion Master? It's useless for you to look for me about this. The two Pavilion Masters are not here, so the Great Elder is the highest authority in our Nine Heavens Palace," Shangguan Fenglan sighed. "No. The grudge between the Vice Pavilion Master and the Great Elder has nothing to do with me. I don't care." Without waiting for Shangguan Fenglan to finish, Qin Feiyang shook his head and said. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and asked suspiciously, "If it's not about the Vice Pavilion Master, then why are you looking for me?" Qin Feiyang said, "You can't have forgotten our agreement, right?" "Agreement?" Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Then she patted her head and said with a bitter smile, "If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. But you are too impatient. Feng Yuan just died and you came looking for me." Joking. For pinnacle-level divine arts, 350 million soul stones, who isn't anxious? Qin Feiyang said. Alright, alright, alright. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. She took out a cosmos sack and threw it to Qin Feiyang. "You've already prepared it?" Qin Feiyang grabbed the Qianquan bag and asked in surprise. "Yes. I've been prepared since we made the agreement. But at the beginning, I didn't have much hope for you. But the result surprised me. Not only did you effortlessly dismantle Feng Yuan's forces, you even dug out the true cause of Mo Wuyuan's death." Shangguan Fenglan's face was full of admiration. "With ease?" Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. It looked like he was handling it with ease, but in fact, every step he took was filled with trepidation. Shangguan Fenglan continued, "However, regarding the Vice Pavilion Master, don't blame me for saying this. You shouldn't have let the Vice Pavilion Master come to our Nine Heavens Palace." "Why?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "You must know what the Great Elder did to the Vice Pavilion Master. You want the Vice Pavilion Master to enter the Nine Heavens Palace? Aren't you trying to embarrass the Great Elder?" Shangguan Fenglan said. "Then do you want to hide it from the Vice Pavilion Master? You have to know that the real victim of this matter is not the Great Elder, but the Vice Pavilion Master. He has the right to know the truth." Qin Feiyang said. "You pursue fairness and justice. That's right. But there are some things that may not be a good thing if you say it out loud. In the end, you're still too young. Shangguan Fenglan sighed. I beg to differ. I don't have any selfish motives. I just feel that it's unfair for the Vice Pavilion Master. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. Everyone has their own thoughts. Let's not argue. Shangguan Fenglan waved her hand and said, when I targeted Yin Hui and the others last time, I had a question in my heart, but I never had the chance to ask you. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan said, hasn't Mu Qin always been by Mu Tianyang's side? How did she get the evidence? It's very simple. When Child Feng entered the prison, I asked Mu Qin to hide in the space divine object and leave the prison with Child Feng. As for Elder Yun, although he knew about us, he didn't know that Mu Qin was also in the prison. Because Mu Qin had been cultivating in Mu Tianyang's space divine object. So Mu Qin's departure didn't arouse any suspicion. After leaving the prison, Mu Qin had been with Child Feng all the time. Therefore, the conversation between Yin Hui and the others that night was all recorded by Mu Qin. Qin Feiyang said. So that's how it is. Shangguan Fenglan suddenly understood. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and checked the cosmos sack. There were indeed a lot of soul stones in it and 4 jade boxes, which should contain the divine arts. He didn't count them and directly put them away. After all, Shangguan Fenglan was a big shot with a reputation. She definitely wouldn't do such a thing as deceiving people. The most important thing was, he wasn't in the mood to count them now. Because there was only one thought in his mind now, which was to enter the Vice Palace Master's study. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, go back. During this period of time, don't do anything out of line, lest you arouse the dissatisfaction of the First Elder. Shangguan Fenglan said. Go back. Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly said, wait, haven't you forgotten one thing? What is it? Shangguan Fenglan was suspicious. The Vice Palace Master's study. Back then, you said that after the matter was done, you would allow me to enter the Vice Palace Master's study. Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan said, did I say that? Are you trying to act shamelessly? Qin Feiyang frowned. Did I really say that? Why don't I have any impression of it? Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He didn't believe that this woman's memory would be so bad. He said in a deep voice, you can't be like this, not to mention that you're the Hall Master of our 9 Heavens Palace's Law Enforcement Hall. If others know that you went back on your word, how would they talk about you behind your back? Ahem. Shangguan Fenglan coughed dryly and said, well, I remember now. I asked the First Elder about this matter before, but the First Elder didn't allow it. Didn't allow it? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. The First Elder said that it's the Vice Palace Master's private study, and no one can step in without the Vice Palace Master's permission. Shangguan Fenglan said regretfully. Qin Feiyang said angrily, then why didn't you tell me earlier? This, Shangguan Fenglan looked a little embarrassed. I know, because you still need my help to get rid of Feng Yuan, and now that Feng Yuan is dead, I'm no longer of any value, so you're not afraid to show your cards. Qin Feiyang sneered. I don't deny it. Shangguan Fenglan said. Okay, I'll remember this. Sooner or later, we'll meet again in the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, and then rose into the air, disappearing from Shangguan Fenglan's sight. Meet again in the treasure pavilion? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. What did that mean? Could it be, wait. Suddenly. Shangguan Fenglan shouted. Qin Feiyang stopped and said without turning his head, may I ask if there's anything else, Lord Palace Master? Shangguan Fenglan said in a deep voice, what do you mean by that? You know very well. This time, I helped the Vice Palace Master of the Treasure Pavilion, and he is grateful to me. And he also knows that I can refine pills like the Four Symbols Infinite Divine Pill. Do you think the Treasure Pavilion will refuse my entry? Qin Feiyang said. You want to betray the Nine Heavens Palace? Shangguan Fenglan said angrily. Betray? That's too serious. I just don't want to be with people like you. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Shangguan Fenglan was very angry, but also helpless. She sighed, okay, I'll take you to the Vice Palace Master's study, but you only have an hour, and this matter, not only must you hide it from the Great Elder, you can't even tell Mu Tianyang and the others. An hour? Qin Feiyang frowned. Was that enough time? However, it was better than not being able to enter. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shangguan Fenglan smiled helplessly, flew into the air, and said, come with me. Qin Feiyang turned and followed. I'm very puzzled, why are you so determined to enter the Vice Palace Master's study? Shangguan Fenglan asked suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, I've said it before, it's purely out of curiosity. It seems that you won't answer honestly. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Qin Feiyang asked, where is the Great Elder now? Shangguan Fenglan said, he looks a little upset, he probably went somewhere to relax. Qin Feiyang curiously asked, then, what's your plan for Feng Zihan? It's not confirmed yet. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Qin Feiyang said, it should be very difficult to decide. I really can't hide anything from you. Indeed. Although Feng Zihan is Feng Yuan's granddaughter, this matter has nothing to do with her directly. Moreover, she's very talented, it would be a pity to expel her from Nine Heaven Palace. But if she continues to stay in Nine Heaven Palace, we won't be at ease. After all, her family basically died in Nine Heaven Palace, we're worried that she won't be able to let go of this hatred and secretly do something harmful to Nine Heaven Palace. Shangguan Fenglan sighed. This is indeed a difficult problem. Qin Feiyang nodded. If he was the ruler of Nine Heaven Palace, he also wouldn't be willing to expel a talent like Feng Zihan. Shangguan Fenglan pondered for a while and suddenly said, I heard my sister say that you're going to Sky Dragon Sea. Why did this woman say everything? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Shangguan Fenglan said, don't blame my sister, I forced her to say it. Please, can you find a better excuse? If your sister didn't mention it first, would you know that we're going to Sky Dragon Sea? If you didn't know, would you force her to say it? Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan said, then why are you going to Sky Dragon Sea? Qin Feiyang said, it's Mu Tianyang's idea to Feng Yuan, saying that he can get rid of us in Sky Dragon Sea. Are you crazy? What kind of idea is this? Do you know how dangerous Sky Dragon Sea is? When you really enter Sky Dragon Sea, there's no need for Feng Yuan to do anything, the sea beasts inside can kill you 1,000 times over. Shangguan Fenglan said angrily. Didn't we not go? Moreover, now that Feng Yuan is dead, there's no need to go. Qin Feiyang said. It's best not to go. If you go, you have to prepare a coffin for yourself in advance. Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Not only was the deputy pavilion master in awe of Sky Dragon Sea, but even Shangguan Fenglan was so wary. It seemed that this place was really not a good place. Chapter 2163. About half an hour later. Qin Feiyang followed Shangguan Fenglan into the deepest part of the mountain. The mountains here were majestic and magnificent. Ancient trees towered into the sky, green and glistening. In the mountains, fierce beasts were everywhere. The aura of each fierce beast was no less than that of a divine lord. Although the scenery was pleasant, it was also a place that made people feel intimidated at first glance. After entering the mountain, they flew for about 100 breaths. 2 courtyards finally came into sight. The 2 courtyards were on the top of a giant mountain about thousands of feet high. One was on the east side of the mountain, and the other was on the west side of the mountain. The top of the mountain was also flattened by an axe. All kinds of flowers and trees were planted, full of vitality. The two landed on the top of the mountain. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Why are there two courtyards?" "The owner of the east courtyard is the palace master, and the owner of the west courtyard is the vice palace master. They used to live here." Shangguan Fenglan said. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. In the center of the two courtyards, there was a two-story attic with carved beams and painted pillars. It was extremely exquisite. However, whether it was the gate of the courtyard or the door of the attic, they were all closed. Shangguan Fenglan took Qin Feiyang to the gate of the west courtyard. The courtyard was very clean and tidy. It didn't look like a place where no one lived at all. Shangguan Fenglan said, "Although the two palace masters are not here, I will personally come here every few days to clean the courtyard." "Not here?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He already knew that the vice palace master was not in the ninth heaven palace. But the palace master was not in the ninth heaven palace, which was a little beyond his expectations. Shangguan Fenglan didn't explain much. She took out a fiery red token from her arms and then pressed it into the void. Buzz! A fiery red boundary immediately appeared in the void. The boundary covered the entire courtyard. There is actually a boundary protection. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Fortunately, he didn't sneak in, otherwise he would have been caught off guard. This boundary was personally set up by the vice palace master. In the entire northern region, there are no more than 10 people who have the ability to break this boundary. Shangguan Fenglan said. So strong. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Wang. The token in Shangguan Fenglan's hand emitted rays of divine light and merged with the barrier. Following closely. A door of light appeared. Go in. Shangguan Fenglan put away the token and took the lead to step into the barrier. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind. After the two of them entered, the barrier automatically healed and then disappeared into the void, as if it had never appeared. Is the palace master's courtyard also protected by a barrier? Qin Feiyang looked at the east courtyard and asked. Of course. The residences of the two palace masters naturally have to be well protected. Furthermore, there are only two tokens that can open these two barriers. One is with me, and the other is with the Great Elder. Shangguan Fenglan said. In that case, only you and the two palace masters are allowed to enter. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. She quickly walked to the front of the attic and gently pushed the door open. A large living room appeared in her sight. In the living room, there were neatly arranged tea tables and chairs made of mahogany. There were also some pleasing decorations hanging on the walls. It was exquisite but not luxurious. The floor was spotless. The study of the deputy palace master is next to the bedroom on the second floor. Shangguan Fenglan pointed to the stairs on the second floor and then led Qin Feiyang to the second floor. There were a total of 3 rooms on the second floor. The bedroom, the cultivation room, and the study. Shangguan Fenglan stopped in front of the study and said, "You can go in, but you are not allowed to mess up the things inside. That is to say, you have to put them back where you took them." Understood. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shangguan Fenglan gently pushed the door open, and everything in the room suddenly appeared in front of Qin Feiyang's eyes. There was a row of bookshelves on all 4 sides of the study. On them, there were all kinds of books neatly arranged. In the center of the study, there was a mahogany desk and a chair. On the desk, there was a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. The entire study, whether it was the floor, the bookshelves, or the table and chairs, was spotless. So many books. Qin Feiyang walked into the study and glanced at the bookshelves on all sides. There were at least thousands of books here. How could he find the historical books about the ancestors in half an hour? Moreover, he did not dare to ask Shangguan Fenglan. Because once he asked, Shangguan Fenglan would definitely be suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I have basically read all the books here. What kind of books are you looking for? Shall I help you find them? No need, no need. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled, saying, I'm just looking around. As he said, he wandered around in front of the bookshelves. But his eyes were constantly searching for books about the ancestors. The books here were all-inclusive. For example, the resources of the fierce beasts, the information of the divine weapons, the information of the divine arts, the information of the major cities, the major forces, and the major families. Then there was the information of the major forbidden areas of the northern region, the famous mountains and scenic spots. In short, there was everything. It was no exaggeration to say. As long as he finished reading the books here, he would basically know the situation of the entire northern region like the back of his hand. However, when he finished reading all the books, he did not see the 3 words Qin Batian on the cover. Is it not here? Qin Feiyang murmured. Or was it that the information of the ancestors was not recorded separately? He originally thought that the information about the ancestors might be recorded separately in a historical book, just like a biography of a famous person. In this way, the name of the ancestors would inevitably be on the cover of the book. But now it seemed that this was not the case. But if the information of the ancestors was mixed with other information, then the time was not enough. Because he had to open the book one by one and look for it page by page. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang frowned again. Thinking back to this period of time, no matter who he asked, they all said that the ancestors were a taboo in the 9th Heaven Palace. Since it was a taboo, it must be very important. Then the information about the ancestors was very likely to be recorded separately. But why was there no information on the bookshelves? Qin Feiyang was full of doubts, wandering in front of the bookshelves while scanning the books. Suddenly, he glanced at the desk. Under the desk, there were 3 drawers. The drawers were all closed. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Could it be in those 3 drawers? But the drawers were the most important places. Shangguan Fenglan would definitely not let him open them. No. I have to think of a way to get Shangguan Fenglan away. Qin Feiyang began to think. Suddenly, he came up with a plan, casually took out a book from the bookshelf, casually flipped through it for a while, then looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said with a smile, I'm a little thirsty, Palace Master, can I trouble you to make a pot of tea for me? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned, as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world, and said, You want me to make tea for you? How much face do you have? Qin Feiyang said aggrievedly, It's just making tea, is there a need to do this? It's really troublesome. Shangguan Fenglan glared at Qin Feiyang, turned around, and walked out. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, quickly put the book in his hand back on the bookshelf, then ran to the desk and opened the first drawer. In this drawer, there were only a few insignificant materials. Then, he opened the second drawer. There were also some materials in it that had nothing to do with him. Then, he opened the third drawer. When he opened the drawer, he looked stunned. There was an iron box in the drawer. The iron block was very thin, but it was very wide and long, just the same size as the book. Qin Feiyang suspiciously took out the iron box, put it on the desk, and then opened the iron box. A slightly yellowed ancient book appeared in front of him. On the cover, there were 3 big words. Qin Batian. I finally found it. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Tada! Suddenly, a burst of footsteps sounded. How come it's so fast? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. How long had it been? Was it done? Originally, he wanted to take a good look, but now, he definitely couldn't. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. What to do? Qin Feiyang was burning with anxiety. It was not easy to find the historical book about the ancestor. Just take it away. In the end, he made up his mind, simply took out the historical book, put it into the cosmos ring, then quickly closed the iron box and put it back in the drawer. After closing the drawer, he immediately ran back to his previous position, took a book from the bookshelf, opened the cover, lowered his head, and pretended to read. Finally, Shangguan Fenglan entered the study, holding a transparent glass in her hand, which was full of water. Qin Feiyang looked up and said suspiciously, "Why is it water?" No wonder it was so fast, there was no tea at all. Shangguan Fenglan put it on the desk and said indifferently, "I have never served a man like this in my life. Drink it or not." "Drink, drink, drink." Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly, closed the book, put it back on the bookshelf, then stepped forward, took the cup, and drank. Soon, Qin Feiyang drank the full cup of water, wiped his mouth, and said with a smile, "Now I feel better." "Hurry up." Shangguan Fenglan glared at Qin Feiyang fiercely. Qin Feiyang didn't care at all. He walked to the bookshelf, took out a few books at random, and flipped through them for a while. Seeing that Shangguan Fenglan had no intention of leaving, he shook his head disinterestedly and said, "There are no books worth reading here." Since Shangguan Fenglan didn't leave the study, he could only take the historical book out. As for how to return it, he would slowly think of a way. Ah! Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Every single one of the books here was priceless. Yet, they were not even worth a look. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, let's go, let's go. It's a waste of time." Looking at Qin Feiyang's arrogant look, Shangguan Fenglan wanted to kick him. After Qin Feiyang left the study, Shangguan Fenglan glanced at the bookshelf and didn't suspect anything. Then she grabbed the glass cup, turned around, and walked out of the study, closing the door. After leaving the courtyard, the two didn't talk much and went back the way they came. But when they arrived at Lotus Lake, a woman in black greeted them, her face full of anxiety. It was Wang Yun. "What's wrong?" Shangguan Fenglan looked at her suspiciously. Wang Yun shouted, "Temple Master, something bad has happened. The treasure pavilion has attacked our Jiutian palace." "What?" Shangguan Fenglan's face suddenly changed. Qin Feiyang was also shocked. This speed was too fast. He looked at Wang Yun and said, "They have already killed their way to Jiutian Palace." Chapter 2164. Attack 9 Heavens Palace. Wang Yun stared at Qin Feiyang in a daze. Qin Feiyang said, "Didn't you say they attacked our 9 Heavens Palace?" "Yes. But I didn't say they attacked our 9 Heavens Palace." Wang Yun said. "Eh." Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded, speechless. Since they didn't attack, how did they attack our 9 Heavens Palace? Wang Yun said solemnly, "It's more serious than attacking our 9 Heavens Palace directly." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Shangguan Fenglan also looked at Wang Yun suspiciously. Wang Yun said, "Not long ago, the Treasure Pavilion's Pavilion Master personally issued an order to ban our 9 Heavens Palace." "Ban 9 Heavens Palace?" Shangguan Fenglan's eyes trembled. "Yes. The target of the ban is not only us, but also all the disciples. In other words, from now on, our 9 Heavens Palace can't even enter the Treasure Pavilion's door. And I received news that all the disciples who were auctioning or trading in the Treasure Pavilion were chased out." Wang Yun said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is it only Sky Dragon City's Treasure Pavilion or the entire North Region's Treasure Pavilion?" Wang Yun said, "The Treasure Pavilion's Pavilion Master personally issued an order, so naturally it's the entire North Region's Treasure Pavilion." "Then this matter is serious," Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Yes. Although our Nine Heavens Palace has a lot of resources, other than the soul vein, nothing else can compare to the treasure pavilion. Especially herbs and divine crystals. More than half of the North region's herbs and divine crystals are controlled by the treasure pavilion. Therefore, this ban is undoubtedly a disaster for our Nine Heavens Palace. Wang Yun said with a worried face. Shangguan Fenglan asked, does Grand Elder know about this? Wang Yun said, the entire Nine Heavens Palace is in an uproar now, it's hard for Grand Elder not to know. Shangguan Fenglan sighed, it seems like the treasure pavilion is really angry this time. Wang Yun said again, there's one more important thing. There's more. Qin Feiyang and Shangguan Fenglan looked at each other. The pavilion master of the treasure pavilion issued 2 orders. The first order is to ban our Nine Heavens Palace. As for the second order, he disdained to fight with our Nine Heavens Palace for the resources of the northern region at all costs. Wang Yun said. Shangguan Fenglan's face sank. He actually gave such an order. All along, the treasure pavilion had focused on doing business and had never competed with Nine Heaven Palace for resources. Unless a great treasure appeared. It was just like the rank 9 soul line that was born in the Heavenly Dragon Sea back then. After all, who wouldn't be moved by such a supreme treasure? The treasure pavilion naturally wouldn't hand it over to Nine Heavens Palace. However, this was extremely rare. Under normal circumstances, the treasure pavilion would give way to Nine Heavens Palace. This was because the treasure pavilion's motto had always been to value harmony, and harmony led to wealth. If the treasure hall had started fighting with Nine Heavens Palace for territory and resources, Nine Heavens Palace wouldn't have been able to develop to its current state. Therefore, it was not an exaggeration to say that the treasure pavilion had created the Nine Heavens Palace. Originally, everything had been in balance. The 2 forces didn't interfere with each other's business. But now, this balance was broken, and the development of Nine Heavens Palace would definitely be hindered in the future. Moreover, although it seemed that Nine Heavens Palace had the advantage in numbers, in a real fight, Nine Heavens Palace couldn't win against the treasure pavilion. Because Nine Heavens Palace only occupied one place, the Heavenly Dragon Mountain Range. And the treasure pavilion's forces were spread throughout the major cities of the northern region. Therefore, if the treasure pavilion really wanted to fight for resources, Nine Heavens Palace wouldn't be able to compete. Palace Master, this matter has already caused all the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace to panic, we must think of a way. Wang Yun said worriedly. Shangguan Fenglan pondered for a moment, then waved her hand and said, take some people to calm them down first, I'll think about it. Yes. Wang Yun respectfully replied, then turned and quickly left. Sigh. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, don't try to be brave in this matter. The one who started the trouble must be untied. The reason the treasure pavilion did this was all because of First Elder. Therefore, First Elder has to personally take action. I know. But it's impossible for the Great Elder to put down his face and ask for peace with the treasure pavilion. Shangguan Fenglan rubbed her forehead. For the survival and development of Nine Heavens Palace, he must ask for peace. Unless he's no longer the Great Elder of Nine Heavens Palace. Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan's face changed, and hurriedly said, you can't say this. This is the truth. Isn't all of this caused by him? Palace Master, don't blame me for saying this. If he doesn't deal with this matter as soon as possible, he won't be able to keep his position as the Great Elder of Nine Heavens Palace. Because if this continues, the situation will become more and more serious. When the Vice Palace Master comes back and sees Nine Heavens Palace like this, will he let the Great Elder off easily? Qin Feiyang sneered. Shangguan Fenglan's heart sank, looking at Qin Feiyang, why do I feel that you're gloating? To be honest. I'm just gloating a little. In the past, I still respected him, but when I saw his attitude towards the Vice Palace Master, I was really disappointed. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Shangguan Fenglan said, the pain of losing a son is not something you can understand. Yes. The pain of losing a son is hard for anyone to bear. But what does this have to do with the Vice Palace Master? It's obviously Feng Yuan's fault. But why does he have to drag the Vice Palace Master into this? In fact, he just can't put down his face and doesn't want to admit his mistakes, and doesn't want others to talk about him behind his back. In a word, he's selfish. Qin Feiyang mercilessly scolded. Sigh. Shangguan Fenglan sighed deeply. She wanted to refute Qin Feiyang, but she couldn't find a reason to. As the great elder of Nine Heavens Palace, one of the strongest existences in the northern region, if this is all he has, then it's too laughable. Forget it, I'm just a disciple, and my words carry little weight. No matter what I say, it's useless. Do as you see fit. With that, Qin Feiyang stood up. Wait. Shangguan Fenglan hurriedly called out to him. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang turned back and looked at Shangguan Fenglan in confusion. Shangguan Fenglan said, You're so close to the Vice Palace Master, why don't you go and talk to him? Me? Temple Master, you're joking. How can I, a disciple, do such a big thing? Let's talk about it later. You and Shangguan Qiu are sisters, why don't you go? As the saying goes, the one who tied the bell should untie it. It's useless even if you and I go. Qin Feiyang shook his head and didn't stay any longer. He tore through the air like lightning. Sigh. Shangguan Fenglan let out a long sigh, her face full of worry. What's going on? Why did the Treasure Pavilion ban us? Didn't the Vice Palace Master of the Treasure Pavilion come to our Empyrean Palace not long ago? Can anyone tell us what's going on? The disciples of Empyrean Palace were in an uproar. The disciples of the 10 sacred peaks also gathered together and discussed animatedly. Look, it's Jiang Haotian. Junior brother Jiang, did you receive the news that the Treasure Pavilion banned us? Not long ago, you went to the conference hall with Madman and the others. The Vice Palace Master also seemed to have gone to the conference hall. What happened at that time? Why did the Treasure Pavilion ban our Empyrean Palace as soon as the Vice Palace Master returned? Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, a group of disciples of the Saint Peaks immediately surrounded him. I do know. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then tell us quickly. Is it a temporary ban, or a permanent ban? Everyone asked. It's not convenient for me to disclose this matter. But don't worry, I believe someone will come out soon and announce the reason for this matter. Everyone, please step aside. Qin Feiyang smiled. Everyone retreated to the side helplessly. Qin Feiyang went straight back to his cave abode. Looking at the closed door of the cave abode, everyone's face was filled with disappointment. Damn it, who did this? But suddenly, in the first cave abode, a roar filled with killing intent rang out. The owner of this roar was Qin Feiyang. Everyone looked at the first cave abode again. What's going on? With a loud bang, the cave abode's stone door shattered. Qin Feiyang rushed out and stared at the crowd. Who entered my cave abode before? No one has entered. What's wrong? Everyone was suspicious. Qin Feiyang scanned the crowd, his killing intent like a blood-red flame. Everyone present had a higher cultivation than Qin Feiyang. But under this killing intent, they felt as if they had fallen into an abyss, their bodies and minds were cold. Junior brother Jiang, what's wrong with you? A young woman who was a perfected divine lord asked. Qin Feiyang didn't say a word. He turned around and returned to the cave abode. Looking at the floor of the living room, his face was gloomy to the extreme. The people outside curiously gathered at the entrance of the cave abode to take a look. They didn't know if they didn't see, but they were shocked when they saw it. On the floor of the living room, there were two bloody heads. Junior brother Jiang, what's going on? More than a dozen young men and women entered the cave abode and stood beside Qin Feiyang. They were surprised. Qin Feiyang looked at the two heads gloomily. They were a man and a woman. And they were both his acquaintances. The man was Guiyong, who had left Nine Heavens Palace not long ago. The woman was Gao Xiaowei. Both of them died with their eyes open, filled with despair and fear before death. And their heads were still bleeding. Obviously, the two of them hadn't died for long. But who killed them? And why did they send their heads to his cave abode? And Guiyong? I haven't seen that woman before. That's not the point. The point is, why are their heads in Jiang Haotian's cave abode? Could it be that Jiang Haotian did it? Impossible. We all saw it with our own eyes before. He just came back. Could it be that someone wants to frame him again? The outside of the cave abode was also crowded with people discussing. Why be so cruel? Qin Feiyang clenched his hands tightly and walked step by step to Gao Xiaowei's head. In the morning at the seaside of the Sky Dragon Sea, he had pulled Gao Xiaowei back from the hands of death. It was also not easy to make her give up the idea of committing suicide. And he also promised that he would be her big brother from now on. But now, there was only a head left. Qin Feiyang squatted on the ground and muttered, "Xiaowei, I haven't had the time to fulfill my duty as a big brother." How did you die? What? She is actually Jiang Haotian's sister. That's not right. Isn't Jiang Haotian's sister Jiang Fire Lotus? Everyone was surprised. I'm sorry, it's all Big Brother's fault. It's Big Brother who harmed you. Tell Big Brother, who killed you. Big Brother will definitely cut him into 1,000 pieces and let him pay with his blood. Qin Feiyang roared, his eyes bloodshot. Chapter 2165. I didn't expect her to be Jiang Haotian's sister. Jiang Haotian's sister was killed. Someone must have deliberately taken revenge on him. Who could it be? Wait, could it be someone from the Feng family? Everyone was discussing. They didn't know that apart from Feng Zihan and Gongzi Feng, everyone from the Feng family had been killed. However, everyone's discussion reminded Qin Feiyang. Someone from the Feng family, someone who would kill Guiyong and Gao Xiaowei and send their heads to his cave residence must have a blood feud with him. And in Jiutian Palace, only the Feng family had such a grudge with him. Feng Yuan, Feng Wenhai, Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang and his wife, and Feng Zijuan were all dead. Then only she was left. That's right. It must be Feng Zihan. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Firstly, only Feng Zihan would hate him so much and take revenge on him. Secondly, only Feng Zihan had the courage and strength to do so. Damn woman, Qin Feiyang clenched his fists tightly. Junior brother Jiang, people can't come back to life, please restrain your grief. Yes, the most important thing now is to find the real murderer as soon as possible and give your sister justice. The group of people standing behind Qin Feiyang comforted him. Qin Feiyang reached out his hand, closed Guiyong and Gao Xiaowei's eyes, and then suddenly stood up. What happened again? Suddenly. Accompanied by a suspicious voice, Wang Yun led a few law enforcers into the cave residence. When she saw Guiyong and Gao Xiaowei's heads, her expression changed greatly. Senior sister Wang Yun, you came at the right time. Look, someone is committing murder in our Jiutian Palace again. We must find him and punish him severely. A group of disciples said angrily. Wang Yun looked at everyone and quickly walked to Qin Feiyang's side, frowning. Jiang Haotian, what's the situation? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wang Yun bent down and observed for a while. Looking at the state of their blood, they should have been killed not long ago. When I returned to the cave residence, their heads were already here. Qin Feiyang said. Wang Yun stood up and looked at the crowd behind her. She asked, before Jiang Haotian returned, did you see anyone enter Jiang Haotian's cave abode? Everyone shook their heads. Wang Yun said in a solemn voice, then it looks like this person made use of a spatial divine object. It's not easy to investigate. Even if it's not easy, we still have to investigate. That's right. We can't let this kind of person continue to stay in Nine Heaven Palace. Otherwise, who knows how many more disciples will be killed by him in the future. The disciples roared. Don't worry, the disciplinary hall will do our best. Wang Yun solemnly promised. Buzz. But just as Wang Yun spoke, Qin Feiyang's mind suddenly buzzed. A mouthful of blood gushed out from his throat, but he forcefully swallowed it back down. He was bewildered. What was going on? Why would such an anomaly appear out of nowhere? Wait a minute. Gongzi Feng. He hurriedly turned around, looked at Wang Yun, and shouted, go to Gongzi Feng's cave residence immediately. Young Master Feng. Wang Yun was stunned. Quick. Qin Feiyang urged. Okay. Wang Yun nodded and ordered the few law enforcers next to her, you guys stay here and watch. Before I come back, no one is allowed to touch the heads of Guiyong and the others. Okay. Several law enforcers nodded. Let's go. Wang Yun said to Qin Feiyang, then rushed out of the cave residence and flew toward the inner sect Sword Peak. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind her. Why are we going to Gongzi Feng's cave residence? Could the murderer be Gongzi Feng? Everyone was bewildered. Don't worry about this. Hurry up and follow. Immediately. A large number of disciples rushed toward the inner sect. But there were also many disciples who stayed behind. Everyone, is it possible that Jiang Haotian is a thief pretending to be a thief? Someone looked at the law enforcers and asked. A thief pretending to be a thief? Several law enforcers were stunned. What kind of mentality is this? That woman is Jiang Haotian's sister. How could Jiang Haotian kill his sister with his own hands? This is nonsense. Some of the disciples were also stunned. When they came back to their senses, they glared at the person who spoke before and said angrily. I'm just making a wild guess. That person smiled embarrassedly. Shouldn't there be a limit to your wild guess? You're obviously sowing discord. Now we seriously suspect that you might be the murderer. Or you might be the murderer's accomplice. A group of disciples shouted. It's a misunderstanding. That person waved his hands repeatedly. All right, stop quarreling. It's impossible that Jiang Haotian did this. Because I heard from Wang Yun that he had been with our hall master previously. The law enforcers laughed. Sword Peak. In front of a cave residence. Wang Yun knocked hard on the stone door. But there was no movement inside. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, break the door directly. Wang Yun slammed her palm and the stone door shattered with a loud bang. A strong smell of blood immediately rushed toward them. Wang Yun's eyes darkened and she immediately rushed into the cave residence. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and followed her into the cave residence. The cave residence of the Sword Peak was naturally not comparable to the Saint Peak. There were only cultivation rooms and resting rooms. At this very moment, on one of the chairs in the lounge, there was also a bloody head. It was Gong Zifeng. What? Gong Zifeng was also killed. Those disciples who came to join in the fun had a change of expression when they saw Gong Zifeng's angry eyes. He's dead. Wang Yun went forward to take a look and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said in a low voice. You're ruthless enough. Qin Feiyang whispered. Do you know who it is? Wang Yun was suspicious. Qin Feiyang did not answer. He turned and walked out of the cave residence. Looking at the clear sky, he muttered, is this your revenge? If it's true, then congratulations, you've done it. Looking at Jiang Haotian, he should know the identity of the murderer. However, he doesn't seem to be willing to say it. A group of disciples looked at Qin Feiyang and whispered to each other. Wang Yun walked to Qin Feiyang and said, Jiang Haotian, if you really know who it is, tell me and I'll immediately order an arrest. Do you have evidence? Although she's dead, no one saw it with their own eyes. Even if you go and arrest her, what's the use? Qin Feiyang said. Wang Yun fell silent. Since she's coming for me, then I'll deal with this matter myself. Help me find a place to bury their heads. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he soared into the air and disappeared without a trace like lightning. Sigh. It's really one wave after another. Wang Yun let out a long sigh and flew towards the Saint Mountain with Gong Zifeng's head. Outer Sect. On an uninhabited sword peak. Qin Feiyang stood quietly, looking down at the mountains and rivers below. Although Gong Zifeng, Buyong, and Gao Xiaohui did not have a deep friendship with him, and he even wanted to kill Gong Zifeng himself, Gong Zifeng's provocative actions had already angered him. It's really hard for me to find. Suddenly, Mu Tianyang's voice sounded behind Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses, turned his head to look at Mu Tianyang, and said, Aren't you in the resource hall? Mu Tianyang laughed, Hua Yi is taking care of the resource hall, it doesn't matter if I'm there or not. Then why are you looking for me? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. To comfort you. Mu Tianyang said. Am I that weak? Qin Feiyang was helpless. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled, saying, Have you ever thought of a problem? What problem? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Mu Tianyang said, Why do Gong Zifeng and the others only have one head? And where did their bodies go? Qin Feiyang said, Is there a need to think about it? Feng Zihan must have deliberately destroyed them in order to vent his anger. Wrong. Mu Tianyang shook his head. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Leaving their heads behind is obviously a provocation to you. And their bodies, if there is no accident, I'm afraid they have been used as sacrifices. Mu Tianyang said. Sacrifice? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. Everyone in the Feng family is dead, Feng Zihan must hate you to the core. Of course, that includes me. So, he will take the bodies of Gong Zifeng and the others to be buried with Feng Yuan and the others. I believe that if there is a chance, he will also take our bodies to be buried with Feng Yuan and the others. Mu Tianyang said. Makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. Otherwise, why would Feng Zihan only leave the heads of the three? In other words, as long as we find the graves of Feng Wenhai and the others, we will definitely be able to find their bodies. This is enough evidence to kill Feng Zihan. Mu Tianyang sneered. Although what you said is true, we can't rule out the possibility that he destroyed the three bodies in front of the graves. Qin Feiyang said. Indeed. So, we have to speed up and find the graves of Feng Wenhai and the others. Mu Tianyang said. Forget it. Feng Zihan is a smart person. Since he has already planned to make a move on us, he will definitely not let us have something to use against him. Now, I don't want to make things so troublesome. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Mu Tianyang said in surprise, Are you planning to kill your way to the Purple Gold Divine Tower directly? Can't I? Qin Feiyang sneered. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment before sending a voice transmission. No. The matter of you helping the Vice Pavilion Master has already incurred the displeasure of the head elder. Now that Feng Yuan's family has been eliminated, you no longer have any value. Perhaps he will take the opportunity to make a move on you. Qin Feiyang frowned. He really hadn't thought about this. This matter is actually very simple. Since Feng Zihan has already made a move, she will definitely not stop easily. As long as we use our brains a little, we can crush her. Mu Tianyang said with a faint smile. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at Mu Tianyang up and down and said, I found that there are benefits to working with you. Of course. I have already said that as long as the two of us work together, there is nothing that cannot be done. Mu Tianyang said with a confident smile. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He looked around and said, let's go to the Black Tortoise world. I have something to show you. What is it? Mu Tianyang was curious. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously and brought Mu Tianyang to the courtyard in the herb field. Qin Feiyang sat on the stone bench and said, after leaving the meeting hall and parting ways with you, I went to find Shengwan Fenglan. You went to find her? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, I had an agreement with her. As long as I get rid of Feng Yuan, she will let me enter the Deputy Pavilion Master's study. Why did you go to the Deputy Pavilion Master's study? Mu Tianyang was suspicious. For this. Qin Feiyang took out the history book from the interspatial ring and said with a smile. Chapter 2166. Mu Tianyang suspiciously looked at the history book. When he saw the words Qin Batian on the cover, his eyes lit up. He asked, this is a history book? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled, it wasn't easy for me to get my hands on this. Amazing. Mu Tianyang gave him a thumbs up and said, what does it say? I haven't had the time to look at it. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Then quickly look at it. Mu Tianyang urged. Qin Feiyang was startled, why do I feel that you're more impatient than me? Humph. Qin Batian, that bastard, caused me to be like this. Of course I'm impatient. Because I still want to settle the score with him. Mu Tianyang coldly snorted. Sigh. You're really unrepentant. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Stop talking nonsense. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang shook his head and placed the history book on the stone table in front of him. He then flipped open the cover. Lines of small words appeared in front of him. The first chapter was basically an introduction of Qin Batian. The content was roughly that Qin Batian's talent was extraordinary and outstanding. He was the #1 monstrous genius in the world today. However, even if it was just an introduction, Qin Feiyang still read it without missing a single word. After reading it, his face was full of admiration. He didn't expect the Vice Palace Lord of the Nine Heavens Palace to have such a high evaluation of his ancestor. His words were full of admiration for his ancestor. Qin Feiyang then turned to the second page. 5,000 years ago, when the Nine Heavens Palace was recruiting disciples, Qin Batian participated in the assessment with the cultivation base of a great success battle god. At first, many people didn't think highly of him. Including me, no one paid attention to him. Because at that time, there were too many geniuses. He was too unknown among the geniuses here. However, the result was far beyond our expectations. He outshone countless geniuses and passed the trial in only 2 hours. He broke the fastest record in the history of our Nine Heavens Palace. At that time, I realized that his future achievements would be unparalleled. As expected, in the second year after he entered Nine Heaven Palace, he became a perfect war god. In the 4th year, he broke through to the perfection stage of the war god realm. Soon after, he broke through to the half-step divine lord realm. When Qin Feiyang saw this, his expression was rather astonished. Breaking through to half-step divine lord so quickly? Mu Tianyang said, he must have also consumed the 4 symbols infinite Dan. You're right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Otherwise, it would not have been so fast. The two of them continued reading. Qin Batian's talent is beyond my imagination. In less than 500 years after entering Nine Heaven Palace, he defeated Madman and took first place on the heaven list. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other. It turned out that when Qin Badian entered 9 Heaven Palace, Madman was already first on the heaven list. Qin Baishan's talent is amazing, but it also attracted our attention. 4,000 years ago, his cultivation reached the perfection stage of the war god realm. In the northern region, it caused a huge commotion and made them even more puzzled. Why was he so fast? One day, I, the palace master, and the 10 great elders summoned him to the conference hall and asked him face to face. Only then did we know that he had the bloodline power of the purple gold dragon blood and had opened the door of potential. I am very gratified by his honesty. I also intend to make him my successor. But not long after, a drastic change occurred. The dragons came and wanted to take away Qin Badian. The dragons were too powerful. We didn't dare to go against their will. In order to protect 9 Heaven Palace, Qin Badian was willing to leave with the dragons. But he didn't expect that the dragons would want to strip him of his bloodline power. But in the end, he killed his way back from the dragons with a broken sword. But he was also seriously injured. When he returned to 9 Heaven Palace, the palace master and I immediately protected him. The next day, the dragons killed their way to 9 Heaven Palace and forced us to hand over Qin Badian. Seeing the aggressive dragons, for the sake of dignity and the reputation of 9 Heaven Palace, the palace master was furious and started a bloody battle with the dragons in the land of the dead. This battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, the palace master died in battle, I was seriously injured, and the 10 great elders had their chi seas destroyed. The losses were heavy. We couldn't protect Qin Badian anymore. We were in despair. Qin Badian also blamed himself. But at this time, a man named Lu Jingyan appeared and showed his strong strength. He saved Qin Badian from the dragons. Since then, the two disappeared. The dragons also left and never appeared again. But because of the death of the palace master, the 10 great elders were prejudiced against Qin Badian, so they ordered to block this matter. After that, Qin Badian was slowly forgotten by people, seeing this. In Qin Feiyang's heart, stormy waves were set off. It turned out that the palace master had fallen. And in order to protect the ancestor. It was no wonder that when the name of the ancestor was mentioned, the big shots of 9 Heaven Palace would be so angry. Because in their view, it was the ancestor who killed their palace master. And the truth was indeed so. If it wasn't to protect the ancestor, would the palace master of 9 Heaven Palace die? Impossible. In the past, I thought that your ancestor might have some hatred with 9 Heaven Palace, but I didn't expect the truth to be like this. The benevolence and righteousness of 9 Heaven Palace is really admirable. Mu Tianyang sighed. Yes. Especially the palace master. As the descendant of the ancestor, I really don't know how to make it up to them. Qin Feiyang said. Make it up, Mu Tianyang shook his head. The death of the palace master of 9 Heaven Palace, could this be made up? Even if it was made up, no one in 9 Heaven Palace would accept it. The dragons, what kind of behemoth was this? Even the palace master of 9 Heaven Palace was not their opponent. Qin Feiyang said, actually, I have heard of the dragons. You have heard of them? Mu Tianyang was surprised. The last time I went to the treasure pavilion to buy the dragon soul, the vice pavilion master and Shangguan Qiu told me. However, they are also very secretive about the dragon race. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang's heart sank, even 9 Heaven Palace and the treasure pavilion are so afraid of them, it seems that the dragons are really in existence that cannot be provoked. It's not that they cannot be provoked, it's that they have already angered me. Qin Feiyang said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Although the ancestor killed the palace master, in the end, it was all caused by the dragons. Mu Tianyang took a deep look at Qin Feiyang before looking at the historical record again. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Wait, didn't your ancestor already enter the Nine Heavens Palace 7 to 8,000 years ago? Furthermore, he was already famous. Why is it written 5,000 years ago? Isn't that simple? This history book must have been written by the Vice Pavilion Master 4 or 5,000 years ago." Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang was stunned, then slapped his forehead. "Look at my brain, I didn't even think of this." The two continued to read until they finished reading the entire history book. In fact, this history book wasn't very thick, only a dozen or so pages of content. The whole story was roughly like this. Qin Feiyang closed the history book and fell silent. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang for a long time, then said, "What do you plan to do now?" Qin Feiyang didn't answer, he was very confused. Mu Tianyang said, "Maybe, I can give you a suggestion." "Speak." Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang said word by word, "Leave Nine Heaven Palace. Leave Nine Heaven Palace." Qin Feiyang's body shook. "I know that the palace master's death made you feel very guilty, you feel that you have let down Nine Heaven Palace, so you want to stay here and contribute to Nine Heaven Palace. But have you thought about it? The dragons attacked Qin Badian, so they will naturally attack you. Because you both have the bloodline power of the purple gold divine dragon. At that time, once your bloodline power is exposed, Nine Heaven Palace will no doubt repeat the same mistake. In other words, if you stay in Nine Heaven Palace, you will only harm them." Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. It was indeed as Mu Tianyang said, he wanted to stay here and make up for the loss of Nine Heaven Palace for his ancestors. But Mu Tianyang's words made sense. Staying in Nine Heaven Palace would only drag them down. Leaving was the best choice. And not only did he have to leave, he had to completely cut off all ties with Nine Heaven Palace. Only then would Nine Heaven Palace not be implicated by him in the future. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, saying, "One last thing, then I will leave. I will accompany you." Mu Tianyang said. "Accompany me?" Qin Feiyang looked at him in shock. "Don't misunderstand. I am not accompanying you to leave Nine Heaven Palace. Nine Heaven Palace has so many resources, I am not willing to leave. I am accompanying you to kill Feng Zihan." Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. "How do you know what I am going to do is to kill Feng Zihan?" Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes, saying, "After being together for so many years, do you think I don't understand you?" "Huh," Qin Feiyang laughed, saying, "If you can let go of your hatred, we can really become good friends. Come on. Even if I let go of my hatred, I am still your elder." "What friend? Don't mess up the seniority," Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang smiled in a carefree manner. This was the truth. According to seniority, he really had to call Mu Tianyang ancestor. Mu Tianyang said, "Since you have made up your mind, then let's do it." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded and put away the historical book. But suddenly, Mu Tianyang seemed to have thought of something, and hurriedly said, "Let me take a look at the historical book again." "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Give it to me." Mu Tianyang did not explain. Qin Feiyang took out the historical book and handed it to Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang opened the cover and looked at it carefully, gradually frowning. "Is there a problem?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Mu Tianyang said, "The content is fine, but there is a problem with the handwriting." "Handwriting?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, lowering his head to look at the words on the cover. Mu Tianyang flipped to the next few pages, his brows knitted tighter and tighter. "What's the problem?" Qin Feiyang did not understand. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and said, "I have seen this kind of handwriting before." "Seen it before?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Yes. I have seen it in the resource hall. This handwriting is very similar to Huiyi's handwriting. Mu Tianyang said. Chapter 2167. Similar. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He took a closer look, and after being reminded by Mu Tianyang, it was indeed somewhat similar. Because everyone in the resource hall had to keep records, he had also seen Huiyi's handwriting. Mu Tianyang swallowed his saliva and looked at Qin Feiyang. He seemed to have difficulty opening his mouth and said, "Such similar handwriting, do you think Huiyi is the Vice Palace Master? What are you thinking about? If he's the Vice Palace Master, why would he hang out with us all the time? Moreover, Shangguan Fenglan and the others also know the Vice Palace Master. If he's really the Vice Palace Master, he would have been recognized long ago." Qin Feiyang was speechless. Mu Tianyang thought for a while and said, "Then is it possible that he changed his appearance? That's even more impossible. The stairway to heaven can identify authenticity. If he changed his appearance, he would have been recognized long ago when he entered the Empyrean Palace." Qin Feiyang said. "Even so, don't forget that the owner of the stairway to heaven is the Vice Palace Master. So, no matter how the Vice Palace Master changes his appearance, the stairway to heaven will not react." Mu Tianyang said. "That makes sense. However, I really can't believe that Huiyi is the Vice Palace Master. As for the handwriting, he's the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, so it's normal for his handwriting to be similar." Qin Feiyang said. "That seems to be true. If you look carefully, there are some differences between their handwriting." Mu Tianyang nodded and returned the historical record to Qin Feiyang. He asked, "Don't you plan to return this historical record? Is that necessary? We're going to leave anyway. It doesn't matter even if we're discovered." Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang nodded and said with a smile, "All right then, let's go kill Feng Zihan." "Just like that? You're courting death?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Mu Tianyang was stunned and said suspiciously, "Then tell me, how do we go there?" "Activate the slaughter domain." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. At the same time, a notice appeared outside the 4 city gates of Heavenly Dragon City. The notice's notice was about the reason why the treasure to ban the palace. It also included Feng Zihan's crimes. So that's the reason. Only then did the world the disciples of the heart-to-hearts by surprise. Originally, they were still complaining about the 9 Heavens Palace, but after knowing the truth, they felt that it was only natural. After all, the palace of Sta-Heart-Heartses. Next. Seriously. Was seriously help blame seriously. This matter was the first elder's fault. He. Seriously. It, the senior, and face senior. He had palaces to apologize. He deserved. Heads. This matter caused a lot of complaints to be heard. However, from beginning to end, the great elder did not stand out and say a single word. In the blink of an eye. 2 hours passed. Lotus Lake. Lord Temple Master, if we don't find a way to resolve this matter, our 9 Heavens Palace will really fall into chaos. A group of enforcers stood in front of Shangguan Fenglan, their faces full of worry. Wang Yun was among them. "I'm trying my best to persuade the great elder. Try your best to appease him." Shangguan Fenglan rubbed her forehead. She was also very annoyed. It can't be pacified. Now, it's not just the people outside who are prejudiced against our 9 Heavens Palace. Even our disciples are dissatisfied. Some disciples have even suggested that if the treasure pavilion doesn't lift their ban on us, they'll leave 9 Heavens Palace. Everyone said. "What? There's such a thing?" Shangguan Fenglan was shocked. Yeah. This matter is completely out of control. If this continues, the foundation of our 9 heavens palace will collapse. Everyone was deeply worried. Looks like we have to hurry. Shangguan Fenglan sighed and waved her hand. Try your best to appease them. I'll go find the Great Elder now. Okay. Everyone nodded and turned around to leave. Wang Yun, wait a moment. Shangguan Fenglan suddenly called out to Wang Yun. Wang Yun turned to look at Shangguan Fenglan and said respectfully, Lord Temple Master, please instruct me. There's nothing else. I just want to ask, what has Jiang Haotian been doing these 2 days? Shangguan Fenglan said. It's strange. Since Gao Xiaowei and the other 2 were killed 2 days ago, Jiang Haotian hasn't appeared again. And Mu Tianyang has also disappeared. Wang Yun frowned. Disappeared? Shangguan Fenglan stood up and looked at Wang Yun in surprise. Yes. They haven't been to the resource hall in these 2 days. But someone saw them leave 9 Heavens Palace. But where did they go and what did they do? I don't know. Wang Yun said. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and looked at Wang Yun. Go and find out what they're doing. Find? Wang Yun was stunned and asked, is there a need for that? You don't understand. Anyway, find them as soon as possible. Shangguan Fenglan said. All right. Wang Yun nodded and turned to leave. Those 2 brats, could it be that they're really dissatisfied with the Great Elder and want to leave 9 Heavens Palace? Shangguan Fenglan muttered. Why were they so worrisome? Then, she rushed out of the pavilion and went to find the Great Elder. Sky Dragon Sea. On an unknown island. The island was about a few miles wide and the entire island was piled with countless sea beast corpses. Most of the sea beasts were at the God Lord level. Blood dyed the island red and the smell of blood could be smelled from afar. On the left side of the island, 2 young men were fighting with 2 sea beasts. The 2 sea beasts were at the perfect God Lord level. The 2 young men were at the perfect God of War. One of them held a crimson sword while the other held a crimson dagger. Although there was a huge difference between their cultivation and the sea beasts, they still easily killed the 2 sea beasts in the end. That's right. They were Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang. For the past 2 days, they had been hunting sea beasts here. The sea of corpses on the island was their masterpiece. The 2 of them carried the sea beasts and returned to the sky above the island. Looking at the sea beast corpses below, Mu Tianyang smiled and said, it should be about time. It's about time. Qin Feiyang nodded. Mu Tianyang kept the crimson dagger and said, then, let's activate the slaughter zone. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and a crimson barrier suddenly appeared. A monstrous murderous aura burst out. The sea beasts around the island were attracted by the smell of blood. When they sensed the murderous aura, they immediately turned and fled for their lives. Resource Palace. Hua Yi. Wang Yun hurriedly ran into the Resource Palace. Senior sister, what's wrong? Hua Yi was busy with his head lowered. When he heard Wang Yun's voice, he raised his head and looked at Wang Yun suspiciously. Wang Yun asked breathlessly, these 2 days, have you seen Jiang Haotian and Mu Tianyang? No. Hua Yi shook his head. Wang Yun asked, then do you know where they are now? I don't know. Hua Yi shook his head again and frowned, did they cause trouble again? That's not it. It's these 2 days. They went missing. The palace master told me to find them. Wang Yun said. Hua Yi was stunned and speechless, they're not children. Why are you looking for them? When they're done with their work, they'll come back by themselves. Wang Yun smiled helplessly and said, I think so too, but this is the palace master's order. What can I do? All right, I'll send a message to ask them. Hua Yi took out the image crystal and sent a message to Qin Feiyang. But soon. He froze. What's wrong? Wang Yun was suspicious. I can't contact Jiang Haotian. Hua Yi frowned. Why can't I contact him? Wang Yun said anxiously. Don't worry, I'll contact Mu Tianyang again. Hua Yi comforted her and sent a message to Mu Tianyang. But then, his body froze again. You can't contact him either? Wang Yun asked. Hua Yi nodded. What's going on? Wang Yun was burning with anxiety. There are two possibilities. Either they're dead, or they're in a forbidden area and can't receive my message. But the former is almost impossible because I know their means too well. Then there's only the latter. Hua Yi speculated. Wang Yun asked, they're in a forbidden area. They should be in Sky Dragon Sea. Hua Yi guessed. Wait. Sky Dragon Sea, could it be that these two bastards had secretly run to the deepest part of Sky Dragon Sea? Too much, too much. They actually abandoned him. Bastards, just you wait. When you come back, see how I'll deal with you. He cursed angrily in his heart. But when he came back to his senses, Wang Yun was already gone. And Wang Yun also went to Sky Dragon Sea. Boom. But just as Wang Yun ran down the stairway and was about to activate the teleportation altar, a terrifying murderous intent suddenly shrouded her. Wang Yun was shocked and raised her head to look. The white-haired old man guarding the stairway also suddenly opened his eyes. Swish. He saw two figures descending on the sky above the mountain peak. It was Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang. Both of them were dripping with blood and full of murderous intent. This was the blood of the sea beasts. But in comparison, Qin Feiyang was even more terrifying. A blood-red barrier surrounded his body. His long hair and eyes were also blood-red. He also held a blood-red long sword in his hand, exuding a peerless sharpness. It looked like a god of death had returned. Jiang Haotian, Mu Tianyang, what are you guys doing? Wang Yun looked at the two in horror. I'm fine. Mu Tianyang shrugged. Wang Yun looked at Qin Feiyang again. Qin Feiyang did not answer. Holding the blood-red long sword, he landed in front of the stairway and walked straight up. Jiang Haotian. The white-haired old man suddenly shouted. Senior, don't worry, I won't do anything rash. Qin Feiyang said without looking back and disappeared from the top of the stairway to heaven. What's going on? Wang Yun withdrew her gaze and looked at Mu Tianyang and asked. Mu Tianyang said with a smile, you'll know later, let's go. After saying that, he also rushed up. Wang Yun frowned and hurriedly chased after the two. Sigh. The white-haired old man sighed and closed his eyes again without saying anything. Chapter 2168. Outer Sect. Many disciples gathered together, discussing what had happened in the past few days. Say, this Feng Yuan is really crazy. He even dared to plot against the Great Elder's son. Yes. It is said that the Great Elder's son treated him like a brother, but he repaid kindness with ingratitude. The most hateful thing is that he even framed the Treasure Pavilion's deputy pavilion master. Although the first elder is also at fault in this matter, wronging the vice pavilion master and crippling one of his legs, in the end, it is all Feng Yuan's fault. If it weren't for him, would we be banned by the Treasure Pavilion now? I'm afraid that even if we drag this scum to feed the dogs won't eat him. The current Feng Yuan was really going down in history in infamy. Even if he was dead, he would be despised by others. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying murderous aura surged out like a tidal wave and enveloped the entire outer court. Millions of disciples were shocked. Why would there be such a terrifying murderous aura? Could it be that the Treasure Pavilion had come to Jiutian Palace? Under the shroud of this murderous aura, everyone couldn't help but tremble in despair. Look! It's Jiang Haotian. This murderous aura is actually emitted by him. Very soon. Everyone saw a figure in the sky. That blood-red hair, blood-red eyes, in a trance. Everyone seemed to have seen a death god descending. What's going on? Why do I feel like he's a different person? That blood-red barrier, that blood-red long sword, what are those things? Not only the outer sect disciples, when Qin Feiyang appeared in the inner sect disciples were also very surprised. It even alarmed the big shots. Why is there such a terrifying murderous aura? Who is it? The big shots also had a change of expression. Purple gold divine pagoda. Qin Feiyang stepped into the sky above the square. Behind him, there were not only Mu Tianyang and Wang Yun, but also countless disciples. There were outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, and Saint Peak disciples. Everyone's eyes were full of surprise. Why did he go to the purple gold divine pagoda? As for the disciples on the earth ranking and heaven ranking, they naturally all felt Qin Feiyang's killing intent at the first instant. One by one, they came out of their seclusion, walked out of their divine pagoda, and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang glanced at the heaven-roll disciples below. After Yu Zijie died, there were only 9 heaven-roll disciples left. At this moment, 8 heaven-roll disciples came out. There were both men and women. The men had imposing appearances while the women were peerlessly beautiful. Every one of them could be called a dragon or phoenix among men. However, he didn't see Feng Zihan. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. He looked at the 10th level of the purple gold divine pagoda and shouted, "Feng Zihan, come out and die." His voice was like a great bell, resounding in all directions. Voila! As soon as these words were spoken, it immediately caused a huge uproar. He came to kill Feng Zihan. Feng Zihan is the number 1 on the heaven roll. Does he have the ability to do so? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The 8 heaven leaderboard disciples were also dumbfounded. As heaven roll disciples, no one knew better than them how strong Feng Zihan was. Not to mention a perfect stage war god, even if it was a perfect stage divine lord, Feng Zihan could kill a large number of them with a wave of his hand. This person was crazy. He actually dared to openly provoke the number 1 on the heaven roll. Although because of Feng Yuan's matter, Feng Zihan was also implicated and his reputation was damaged, but the big shots above did not say anything about doing anything to her. So, she was still a disciple of 9 Heavens Palace, the king of 9 Heavens Palace, the number 1 among the disciples. Everyone came back to their senses and looked at the 10th level of the purple gold divine pagoda. In the face of such a naked provocation, would Feng Zihan accept the challenge? But after waiting for more than 10 breaths, Feng Zihan did not appear. "If you don't come out, then I'll kill my way in." Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed on the square. Wang Yun's expression changed. She hurriedly took a step forward and stood in front of Qin Feiyang. She shouted, "Jiang Haotian, don't mess around. Get out of the way." Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yun with a calm expression. But Wang Yun could not help but feel a chill in her heart. But because of her responsibility as an enforcer, she did not back down. Qin Feiyang said, "Other than Feng Zihan, I don't want to hurt anyone. Get out of the way immediately." Wang Yun said anxiously, "Our 9 Heavens Palace is already chaotic enough. Don't make any more trouble. The chaos is also caused by Feng Yuan." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. The blood-colored sword in his hand shook, and thousands of sword qi shot out. A wisp of sword qi instantly sank into Wang Yun's left shoulder. An arrow of blood immediately shot out. "I said, other than Feng Zihan, I don't want to hurt anyone. Don't force me to make a move," Qin Feiyang said coldly. Then, he brushed past Wang Yun and walked towards the pagoda door. "How is this possible? Senior sister Wang Yun is a perfect monarch god. She was seriously injured in an instant. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the people present surged with shock. Especially the 8 disciples on the heaven roll. They were in the square, closest to Qin Feiyang. The moment Qin Feiyang appeared, they felt the aura of a death god. Blood-colored sword, they stared at the blood sword in Qin Feiyang's hand, their eyes filled with fear. What level of divine artifact was that? What do you want to do? Suddenly, a pleasant voice sounded from inside the purple gold divine pagoda. Following closely. Legendary level divine artifact, it's also a waste in your hands. Qin Feiyang said contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, the surging blood-red sword qi in the surrounding void suddenly shot out. Boom! The blood-red sword qi and the divine phoenix collided, and a loud explosion resounded, shaking the heavens and earth. At the same time, a destructive wave of air rolled out in all directions with the two of them as the center. Everyone, retreat as far as you can. Mu Tianyang shouted. When everyone heard this, they immediately turned around and fled in fear. The square in front of the purple gold divine tower cracked inch by inch, and rocks flew everywhere. The purple gold divine tower also shook violently, like a fallen leaf in the wind. The giant peak below was crazily cracking, as if it would collapse at any time. Dust and smoke covered the entire area. All of you, stop. If this continues, this place will be destroyed by you. Wang Yun anxiously shouted as she looked at Qin Feiyang and Feng Zihan in the dust. But just as she finished speaking, her eyes widened in disbelief. The azure divine phoenix was actually crushed into pieces by the blood-red sword qi as easily as crushing dry weeds. A legendary level divine artifact was no match for the blood-red longsword in Jiang Haotian's hand. How was this possible? Was this a joke? Feng Zihan also had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were also filled with shock. Stronger than the azure phoenix sword? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Empyrean Palace didn't have a divine artifact stronger than the legendary level. The number 1 person on the heaven leaderboard is destined to fall today. Qin Feiyang said indifferently as he took a step forward, and the sword in his hand emitted a blood-red light as it whistled towards Feng Zihan. Feng Zihan was also as cold as ice, and he didn't dodge. The azure phoenix sword was fully awakened, and 10 azure divine phoenixes appeared, their terrifying aura several times stronger than before. You want to kill me? You don't have the ability. Feng Zihan roared. With a wave of the azure phoenix sword, the 10 divine phoenixes turned into a torrent and fiercely pounced on Qin Feiyang. You're just ants. At this moment, Qin Feiyang displayed his arrogance, dominance, and disdain to the fullest. The blood-red longsword tore through the sky, and the 10 divine phoenixes were directly torn to pieces like rotten wood. This, Feng Zihan's eyes widened in anger. If the first time was a coincidence, then what about the second time? And this time, the azure phoenix sword was fully awakened, but it was still no match for the blood-red longsword in Jiang Haotian's hand. Could that blood-red longsword really be a terrifying divine artifact that surpassed the legendary level? Chapter 2169. He's too strong. Who would have thought that he would have such terrifying means? That's right. Look at how low-key he usually is. Even when dealing with the Feng family, he only used his brain. I've never seen him fight, so everyone thought that he was just smart and knew how to scheme, but didn't have much strength. Who would have thought that his strength would be so terrifying? You really amazed the world with a single brilliant feat. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. However, Wang Yun was burning with anxiety. Although she agreed with Qin Feiyang's guess that Feng Zihan killed Gao Xiaowei and the other two, a guess was just a guess. Killing Feng Zihan without evidence would cause a lot of trouble. But she not only admired Qin Feiyang, but also felt grateful. Because it was Qin Feiyang who allowed her to enter the law enforcement hall. Otherwise, she would just be an ordinary disciple after being expelled from the resource hall. So, she didn't want Qin Feiyang to be punished because of this. But Qin Feiyang was too strong now, and she couldn't stop him at all. Clang! The blood-red longsword clanged, its edge destroying the world. Boom! More than half of the giant mountain below had collapsed. One had to know. Because of the purple gold divine tower, this giant mountain had been tempered by divine power, and its hardness was comparable to divine metal. But even so, it couldn't bear the sharpness of the blood-red longsword. The purple gold divine pagoda was also in imminent danger. Although the purple gold divine tower had a time array, it was still a spatial divine item, which meant that its grade was higher than other spatial divine items. And Qin Feiyang, after activating the slaughter domain, could even destroy a heaven-defying divine item. So if they continued to fight, even if they didn't hit the purple gold divine tower directly, it would be destroyed sooner or later. Of course. Qin Feiyang definitely wouldn't do that. Because Empyrean Palace was indebted to the ancestor, it was also indebted to him. The purple gold divine tower was one of the most important divine items in Empyrean Palace. He didn't even have time to protect it, so how could he destroy it? But, indeed, he had to end the battle quickly. Putting aside whether or not the purple gold divine pagoda would be destroyed, the slaughter zone would only last for an hour. If he still had not killed Feng Zihan after an hour, then he would not have the chance anymore. With this thought in mind, Qin Feiyang gripped his blood-colored sword and executed the walk formula, charging towards Feng Zihan in a frenzy. I don't believe it. Feng Zihan came back to his senses and roared in anger. The azure phoenix sword exploded with light as it slashed towards Qin Feiyang. A divine artifact that surpassed the legendary level was something she could not accept. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. The blood-colored longsword that was slashing towards Feng Zihan suddenly changed its trajectory, heading straight for Feng Zihan's shoulder. Crack! Following a crisp crack, Feng Zihan's arm broke off on the spot. Qin Feiyang coldly smiled. He grabbed the azure phoenix sword and sent it to the ancient castle. What? He actually stole the azure phoenix sword. He even cut off one of Feng Zihan's arms. Everyone was dumbfounded. And Feng Zihan was also extremely shocked. Although she didn't want to admit it, but the fact that the blood-colored longsword surpassed the legendary level was an undeniable fact. But she couldn't understand how a perfect circle war immortal could revive such a divine artifact. She carried a stomach full of doubt and anger as she turned into a ray of light and flew towards the depths of the ninth heaven palace. She escaped. The disciples looked at each other in dismay. The number one person on the heaven leaderboard actually escaped. This was big news. If news of this were to spread, who knows how many jaws would drop. Qin Feiyang was also quite surprised. In his impression, Feng Zihan had always been a proud daughter of heaven who cared a lot about her self-esteem. Logically speaking, with so many people watching, she wouldn't do such a thing. It seems that no matter what kind of person, it was hard to overcome the fear of death. Shua! Coming back to his senses. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He executed the walk formula and chased after her. Feng Zihan's escape was not good news to him. Because Feng Zihan's cultivation was much higher than his, and her speed was far from what he could compare to. As for the kill formula, ever since he broke through to the war immortal realm, it had changed. What had increased was not his cultivation, but the power of the blood-colored longsword. So, if Feng Zihan wanted to escape, it would be very difficult for him to catch up. Jiang Haotian. Suddenly, a shout rang out. The madman broke through the air and stood in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's spirit was shaken, and said, "You came at the right time, quickly help me chase after Feng Zihan." However, the madman turned a deaf ear and frowned. What are you doing? Do you still need to ask? Qin Feiyang said. The madman looked at Qin Feiyang gloomily, and said, do you know what kind of consequences you will face if you kill her without evidence? I know. But what does that matter? Qin Feiyang said indifferently. The madman's face was filled with anger as he shouted, after getting rid of Feng Yuan, did you start to become arrogant? I became arrogant. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The madman sighed deeply, and said, stop, it's still not too late, just treat it as giving me face. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and slowly understood, and said, you came here to stop me from killing her, right? The madman didn't admit it, but he didn't deny it either. Qin Feiyang said, it seems that your feelings for Feng Zihan are not what you usually show. Yes. I admit, I am indeed a little moved by her, so give me face, okay? The madman said. No. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The madman shouted, don't force me to attack you. You have seen the slaughter domain more than once, so you should know that as long as I activate it, even if you use all your trump cards, you won't be able to defeat me. So now you should get out of my way. Qin Feiyang said, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Huh, what an arrogant fellow. Good, let me have a real taste of it. The madman laughed, and blood divine power surged out, and a huge barrier fell. Blood demon domain. It's useless. Qin Feiyang shook his head, and with a slash, the blood demon domain was shattered. Bastard. Are you serious? Do you believe that I won't expose your identity? The madman shouted. Do as you wish. Qin Feiyang looked at him indifferently, and then turned into a stream of light, passing by the madman and continuing to chase after Feng Zihan. And after being delayed by the madman, Feng Zihan had disappeared without a trace. He's not afraid that I will expose his identity. The madman scratched his head with a puzzled expression. What's going on? Why does he seem to have become a person? Qin Feiyang scanned the front and transmitted his voice, artifact spirit, hurry up and help me find Feng Zihan. I can help you find her, but this sovereign can't do it. The artifact spirit's voice sounded in his mind. Qin Feiyang thought, after opening the slaughter domain, do I still need you to do it? You just need to help me find her. Okay. The artifact spirit responded. Jiang Haotian, have you caused enough trouble? But at this moment, another cold shout rang out. Shengguan Fenglan descended from the sky, and a terrifying pressure like a waterfall pressed down on Qin Feiyang. Why do you all want to force me to hurt you? Qin Feiyang was also enraged, and with a slash of his sword energy roared into the sky. That pressure couldn't be blocked at all. Puff! A wisp of sword energy entered Shengguan Fenglan's Qi, and Shengguan Fenglan spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and a bloody hole appeared on her lower abdomen. What? Even Hall Master Shengguan can't block that blood sword. The shock in everyone's heart could no longer be described with words. And Shengguan Fenglan was also extremely shocked. How could it be so terrifying? Today, Feng Zihan must die, no matter who comes, it's useless. Qin Feiyang left behind these words and flew away like a bolt of lightning. Shengguan Fenglan glanced at the blood-colored long sword in Qin Feiyang's hand, then looked at Madman and asked, what exactly is that? Although her Qi was destroyed, her soul was still there. Relying on her divine sense, she could still stand and fly in the air. That's the slaughter domain. A very terrifying method. Once this slaughter domain appears, even if the old man appears, he won't be able to stop him. Madman sighed. So strong. Shengguan Fenglan was stunned. Found it. Front left. The artifact spirit's voice sounded. Qin Feiyang immediately rushed to the front left. Although he had been using the Xing formula, his speed was still too slow. Qin Feiyang secretly said, "Do you have a way to increase my speed?" "Yes. This venerable will come out and take you to chase her." "But this venerable just said that I can't appear." "There is a second way, let this venerable control your body." The artifact spirit said. "Control my body? Isn't that the same as possession?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "That's what it means, but it's not possession. In short, just like the inner demons, your consciousness can first return to the inner world and let this venerable temporarily control your body." The artifact spirit said. "So it's like this?" Qin Feiyang muttered. The artifact spirit said again, "If you're not at ease, just pretend that this venerable didn't say anything." Qin Feiyang was definitely not at ease. This kind of thing was definitely not a joke. After all, this artifact spirit was a heaven-defying artifact that was comparable to the ancient castle and Changshui. "Why don't you come out? After catching up with Feng Zihan, you can return to my body. I believe that no one will find you." Qin Feiyang secretly said. "Wrong. This venerable has already sensed that there is a pair of eyes secretly watching us." The artifact spirit said. "What?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. The artifact spirit said, "This person's strength is very strong, and this venerable can feel that he is not near us, but far away. It seems that he has activated a kind of divine art that can spy on all things." "Divine art?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Suddenly, his eyes trembled, and he secretly said, "If I'm not wrong, it must be the Great Elder." The artifact spirit said, "So this venerable can't go out, or it will bring disaster to you." This, Qin Feiyang was hesitant. Could he trust the artifact spirit? Actually, you don't have to be so wary of this venerable. Because if this venerable really wants to possess you, with this venerable strength, you can't stop it at all. Moreover, you are this venerable's master now. As long as you want to, you can erase this venerable's consciousness. It's already like this, what are you still worried about? Can't we trust each other more?" The artifact spirit said somewhat speechlessly. Chapter 2170. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he thought about it and agreed. Now that he was the owner of the castle, why should he be afraid of the artifact spirit? Okay. Let's trust each other more. Qin Feiyang thought to himself. Then, he stopped in the air and entered his inner world. At the same time, the artifact spirit also entered his mind and took control of Qin Feiyang's body. Watch carefully. What is extreme speed? The artifact spirit said secretly. Without activating the Xing character art, he stepped into the air. However, his speed was dozens of times faster than Qin Feiyang's Xing character art. In less than 3 breaths, he saw Feng Zihan in front of him. When can I have such speed? Qin Feiyang was envious. But Feng Zihan, who was in front of him, was shocked. How could he catch up? This was impossible. How could a perfect divine warrior catch up with her, a perfect divine lord? But the man behind her was real. How did he do it? Whoosh! Another 3 breaths passed. The artifact spirit controlled Qin Feiyang's body and in a flash, he appeared in front of Feng Zihan. Qin Feiyang immediately regained control of his physical body. Then, without saying a word, he slashed furiously with his blood-colored sword. What is going on? Looking at the blood-red sword that looked like the sword of the Grim Reaper, Feng Zihan could not help but feel despair. Whoosh! But just as Feng Zihan was about to die under the blood-red sword, an old man suddenly appeared, grabbed Feng Zihan, and flew away. Elder Yun! Qin Feiyang shouted. That's right. The old man who suddenly appeared was Yin Hui's master, Elder Yun. Old Yun did not even turn his head as he replied, where it is possible to make mistakes, one should forgive them. What a joke. Why didn't she show mercy when she killed Gao Xiaowei and the other 2? Qin Feiyang roared and gave control of his body to the artifact spirit. Even Elder Yun's speed couldn't be compared to the artifact spirit's. Whoosh! After catching up to Elder Yun, the blood-colored sword left his hand. Like a divine rainbow, it pierced through the sky and attacked towards Elder Yun's back. Feng Zihan might not be responsible for the deaths of Gao Xiaowei and the others. Old Yun shouted. Cut the crap. If you want to protect her, then I'll kill you as well. Qin Feiyang shouted. Originally, it was a very simple matter. However, unexpectedly, Feng Zi, Shangguan Fenglan, and Elder Yun came out one after another to stop him. How dare you! Feng Yuan shouted angrily. Divine power surged out of his body and shot toward the blood-red sword. You will never know how terrifying this blood sword is. Qin Feiyang sneered. The blood-red longsword's sharpness was unparalleled as it crushed forward with irresistible force. Puff! One of Elder Yun's arms was chopped off by the blood-red longsword on the spot. Blood spurted out like a fountain. What? Elder Yun also turned pale with fright. I've said that no one can stop me today. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. With a thought, the blood-red longsword turned in the air and attacked Feng Zihan, who was next to Elder Yun. Elder Yun's expression changed as he said in a deep voice, "She is now this old man's disciple. Please give this old man some face." Disciple? I'm sorry, no matter whose face it is, it won't work today. Qin Feiyang said domineeringly. The blood-red longsword had already arrived in front of Feng Zihan. Elder Yun's eyes were filled with anger as he pushed Feng Zihan away with a palm. The blood-red longsword slashed between the two of them. You want to save her like this? Naive. Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully. The blood-red longsword turned in the air again and with a poochie sound, it immediately sank into Feng Zihan's forehead. Blood spurted out like a fountain. And immediately after, Feng Zihan's head was shattered under the sharpness of the blood-red longsword. There was nothing left of his divine soul. It was completely annihilated. Zihan! Elder Yun roared hysterically. From this moment on, Feng Zihan, the number one on the heaven list, no longer exists. Qin Feiyang looked coldly at Feng Zihan, who was falling down. He said these words expressionlessly and turned to leave. Stop! Elder Yun growled. I don't want to hurt anyone except Feng Zihan. Don't force me. Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. Jiang Haotian. But at this moment, the great elder appeared out of thin air in front of the void, his old face full of anger. Qin Feiyang looked at the great elder and said, I don't want to explain, nor do I want to say anything more. Please step aside. Gao Xiaowei and the other two were killed. This old man can understand your feelings, but you can't kill Feng Zihan in public based on your personal guess. The great elder shouted. I said, I don't want to say anything more. Qin Feiyang said lightly and bypassed the great elder. Did this old man let you leave? The great elder said angrily. Then what do you want? Qin Feiyang stopped and asked. Before we find enough evidence to prove that Gao Xiaowei and the other two were killed by Feng Zihan, you must stay in prison. The great elder said in a deep voice. Prison, Qin Feiyang muttered and turned to look at the great elder. He shook his head and said, You really disappoint me. Impudent. The great elder shouted angrily. Whoosh! At this time, Madman and Shangguan Fenglan finally rushed over. When they saw Feng Zihan's body, their expressions changed. Madman said angrily, Jiang Haotian, you really killed her? Qin Feiyang looked at Madman and said, Would I joke with you about this kind of thing? You, Madman glared at him. The great elder shouted, Shangguan Fenglan, immediately throw him into prison. Yes. Shangguan Fenglan respectfully replied. She had already expected this result. Qin Feiyang sighed, "Great Elder, you can't be so hypocritical." Shangguan Fenglan's expression changed and she shouted, "Jiang Haotian, what did you say? More and more out of line. Did I say something wrong? He was clearly spying on us from the beginning, but why did he only appear after I killed Feng Zihan? It's actually very simple. Because I helped the deputy pavilion master and made him very dissatisfied, so he wanted to take this opportunity to take revenge on me." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he looked at the First Elder and sneered, "First Elder, am I right? Nonsense. This old man has just received the news." The Great Elder said, "Stop pretending. Your divine art that can secretly spy on others, although invisible and colorless, I can see through it." Qin Feiyang said, "You can see through it?" The Great Elder was shocked. Madman looked at Qin Feiyang and then at the Great Elder and asked, "Old man, is it really like what he said?" The Great Elder was stunned and said angrily, "What? You'd rather believe him than this old man?" Madman looked at Qin Feiyang and the Great Elder, unable to make a judgment for a while. Qin Feiyang looked at Madman and sighed, "Don't do something that others don't know. Great Elder, take care of yourself." Then he turned and left. The Great Elder clenched his hands and shouted at Shangguan Fenglan, "Take him down." Shangguan Fenglan took a step forward and stood in front of Qin Feiyang, saying, "Don't make things difficult for me. Don't worry, I will do my best to find evidence that Feng Zihan killed Gao Xiaoyi and the others. No need. These things are no longer important. I can't accept the Great Elder's actions. From this moment on, I am no longer a disciple of Nine Heavens Palace." Qin Feiyang took out his identity token. Then, he exerted force in his hand, and the token shattered on the spot. Shangguan Fenglan was shocked. Madman also looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. The Great Elder and Old Yun also didn't expect that Qin Feiyang would betray Nine Heavens Palace. Shangguan Fenglan came back to her senses and hurriedly said, "Jiang Haotian, this matter hasn't reached this point yet, right?" Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Madman, cupping his hands, "Thank you for taking care of me during this time, I won't forget." Madman wanted to say something but stopped. "Let's meet again if fate wills it." Qin Feiyang smiled and took a step forward, directly walking past Madman. Madman sent a voice transmission, "Do you know something?" "Who knows?" Qin Feiyang shrugged. Madman turned to look at Qin Feiyang's back, his eyes flickering. "Shangguan Fenglan, what are you waiting for? Take down this traitor." The Great Elder shouted. "Enough." But at this moment, Madman shouted. The Great Elder immediately glared at Madman. Madman sighed, "Let him go." The Great Elder said angrily, "What kind of bewitching potion did he give you? How long have you been together and you're already so protective of him? I really don't want to say anything more. If you still recognize me as your grandson, let him go." Madman flew to Feng Zihan's side and silently looked at him for a while. Then he sighed, picked up Feng Zihan, and stepped into the air. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Madman and then at Qin Feiyang's back. She looked at the Great Elder and asked, "Great Elder, now this, forget it, forget it." The Great Elder shouted angrily and disappeared as well. Sigh. Shangguan Fenglan sighed and walked to Old Yun. Looking at his broken arm, she asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "It's just a broken arm, I'm fine." Old Yun shook his head and then looked at Qin Feiyang who was about to disappear from sight, "But that Jiang Haotian is too unbelievable." "Yes. Just a strand of sword qi was enough to cripple my qi. Now, it even cut off one of your arms. That blood-red sword is so terrifying that it makes people despair." Shangguan Fenglan said. "Not only that. He was obviously merciful before, otherwise it wouldn't be this arm that was cut off, it would be this old man's head." Recalling the scene, old Yun couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. You go back and rest first, I'll go comfort the disciples. Now the entire Nine-Heaven Palace is in chaos. Shengguan Fenglan shook her head, turned around, and flew away. Inner gate. Seeing Qin Feiyang fly over, Mu Tianyang, who was standing in the crowd, asked, "Are you leaving now?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang secretly replied. Mu Tianyang secretly said, "Then what about the Nine-Heaven Palace's soul line?" "I'm not interested." Qin Feiyang secretly said. Mu Tianyang wasn't surprised at all, and said, "You're not interested, but I am. I just want to ask you, will you stop me when the time comes?" "No. If you can get it, then that's your ability." Qin Feiyang said. "I'm waiting for you to say that. When you go to the Sky Dragon Sea, remember to inform me." Mu Tianyang secretly laughed. "Okay. Take care." Qin Feiyang secretly said, then flew towards the stairway to heaven without looking back.